Brett Perigo, tonight's second place finisher. Plenty of fans here, Brett, and a solid second place finish.
Yeah, I got to shout out the Turn 2 Terror Boards over there. They're all a bunch of good guys to hang out with and talk to. I really like them.
How are you doing tonight, man?
Hey, I'm talking here. You know who you're talking to? Macho Man! I'm on my way to Monday Night Raw.
The second one.
Your choice.
It's a trap.
I feel like it is. I feel like he's setting up fights in the front stretch is what he's trying to do.
Got Devin Borden with us
at Keen Motorsports Shop here with Kyle Keen.
Sitting here with Sean Keen. We're going to talk a little bit about racing history.
Yep.
It is Monday, November 18th. I am Jimmy here with Chris and Jay-Z. We are the Turn 2 Terribles. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We see a bunch of you guys in the chat already. Matt Bird, Eric Schneck, Randy Kopp, Brad Weatherby, Ken Baum, the champ, is here. Randy Kopp, Daniel Lee. What's up? Last call for 2024 tonight. Dakota, Marie, thank you guys all so much for tuning in. Everybody that's joining us. We got a great show planned for you tonight. We have Jeremy Elliott of Sprint Car Unlimited, who's going to join us and help us break down this 2024 season. We're going to go over the report card grades that we did this last year. It was a lot of fun. We're going to go over that, and we're going to get Jeremy's take on it and talk about what you guys came to a conclusion on in terms of your grades. We'll also talk about BAPS on Saturday night, some of the other news, what Selinsgrove, some ride changes, what Chase Dietz, and anything else. And we'll try to wrap this up for the last show of the calendar year, at least live one. We'll probably try to do some different things. But this will be the last live show of the year. So, Jeremy, Chris, how are you guys doing tonight?
Good, Jeremy. You've been cooped up there for weeks, and we saw you rolling around on your big 410 scooter. How you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm telling you what, it was nice to get out. It was nice to be at the racetrack. Not that I missed many, to be honest, but man, that was cool to be there because I didn't think I was going to be. It was a pain in the ass, the whole thing, but with the boys, turn 2, infield at BAPS.
Yeah, that was
man. How cool is that, right? What a great little addition to the place. So
I will say, I think that may be the first time the three of us truly got to hang out in the infield in turn 2 since when we first met. Because otherwise, you've been doing
you've been doing the photography thing.
And the first time we all met, we were in turn 2. We drove. Yeah.
I stop in and peek over turn 2 a lot, but
this is the first time we got to hang out all night, turn 2.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I had a few beers with the boys, and I got driven there and got a ride home. So it was great for me. I had a great time.
Shout out to your wife, legend, for
No
sticking
doubt.
through that.
All due to her. Like if it wasn't for her, it wouldn't happen. So, but again, I don't want to hold this up for that. I'm excited for this show. This was fun last year. A lot of great feedback. So I think this is going to be as interesting as it was last year. And
Yeah.
I felt like some of these were really easy. And I felt like I have a whole second page of stats from 23 to 24 for some of these guys because I was
that's awesome.
what do I think about this? Like, what? I don't know, right? I was a little bit like unsure about it, and then when I wrote down the stats from last year to this year, and then looked at it, I'm like, oh, that's pretty clear. So I'm excited for this.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one. We had Brett Strickler on last year who helped us out with this one, and he was great. And I think Jeremy's going to have some great insight and some good opinions on this one for this year. So,
Oh, you know me.
huh?
You said I know I'm going to have a lot of great insight, but you told me.
Yeah, we got two Jeremys on the night. So
Yeah.
you are not you are Jay-Z for the rest of. I mean, you always are, but just to be clear. All right.
The real Jeremy.
Before we bring Jeremy on, we do want to give a shout out to our partners over at Vertical for Life. Did you know every 22 seconds a veteran loses their life to suicide? The great people over at Vertical for Life are dedicated to helping to prevent veteran suicide one beat at a time. Vertical for Life accomplishes this goal through education and assists veteran organizations to raise money through music to help our veterans gain access to life-saving resources. They got a new website. They're coming out with some cool new merch, so we'll send some links out in a post either tonight or tomorrow, and we want you guys to go check that out. Make sure you go and support these guys. Brad and that whole team, they really do a lot. So make sure you follow them. We could all help make a difference. Go to a vet, tell them thank you and that you care. You never know, it could help save their life. So thanks to Vertical for Life for supporting the podcast and doing everything that they do in general. It's a great thing.
Right. And with that, I know we'll put the post out. A 20-quart cooler bundle, Black Friday special, $225 for lots of stuff. So check out verticalforlife.com. Cooler, tumblers, all kinds of stuff. All goes back to help the veterans.
So yeah, check that out. Thanks to those guys, and we'll get a post out later for some links for you guys. Well, without further ado, let's bring them on. Our very special guest tonight for our season finale, owner of SprintCarUnlimited.com, Jeremy Elliott. Jeremy, thank you so much for doing this with us. We're so excited to have you on. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for having me on. It's appreciated.
We needed to have a pro. Like we're amateurs, so we wanted to have a pros version of this. And I'm actually interested on how our grades match up with yours and how the fans match up with ours and yours. So this will be I think this will be a fun little exercise for all of us. And just assume I'm right. Jeremy's are right, by the way. Just assume that we are right and you're not. So we'll just go with
We know
that.
damn well Jimmy's going to come out with an A+ for Brock.
That's not true. That's not true.
That's why he put him as the last.
I was amped up at BAPS on Saturday. It was nice to. It's the first time I got to see him win in person since 2017, 2018. It's been a long time. So
it's been 84 years. Burn the place down. That didn't happen. So
well, no, I had to go home. So all right, I'm gonna bring this up here now. When I do bring this up, let me figure this out here for a second. There we go. Some of these grades from the viewers have changed because when I did these last night, we had about 75, 80 responses. We have got now are over 100 after today, and I didn't close it. So I will update and give you guys the percentages of what the viewer votership was, and we'll talk about it. So if you guys voted on this, make sure you put in the chat what's your reasoning for some of these. You know what I mean? But we're gonna try to keep it moving the best we can, and we're gonna start here with Aaron Bollinger. Jay-Z went with a B-. I, myself, Chris, and the viewers all went with a B. The viewers were at 24.4% at B and 21.1% at B+. So right around there. His 2024 stats, he had 37 races ran, 2 wins, 7 top 5s, 17 top 10s, and he was 4th in Lincoln points. Looked really strong, especially the last half of the season. Jeremy, why'd you give him a B-?
Well, we should also ask Jeremy Elliott's grade.
Yes.
Because we don't have his on there. So, let's start there, Jeremy, because we're going to probably have to do that. We'll read these down.
Yeah, let's do
Hopefully
that.
Jeremy's in there. So where were you at, Mr. Elliott, with Aaron Bollinger this year?
I'll tell you what, I liked a lot of what he did. He didn't have any wins last year. I think jumping in that car, he looked really good. I'm going, when you do rankings, do you give him compared to everybody else, or do you base it on the progress from last year to this year? There's a lot of different ways to do it. I'm going to give him a B+ because, I think he broke out this year. I think he was able to pass a lot of cars. I think he would have had another win at Lincoln if not for some unfortunate incidents. He had to go to the back of the field, came back through. That was early in the year. I like what I see from Aaron Bollinger, and I think he's come a long way in a short amount of time, and now he's in another car. So I think it's onward and upward for that team.
So I guess I will get into mine a little slightly more critical, and I don't think it's even a critical thing. The one that jumped out to me, and listen, he ran 11 more races than the year before, so which obviously that seat time matters. The 0 wins to 2 wins is huge. It's huge for anybody in any racetrack ever. You go from no wins all year to 2 is huge. He only added 3 top 5s, so seemed like it was win, and it was the back half of that top 10. Not that that's a bad thing. He did add 7 top 10s from last year this year. So 17 top 10s in 37 races, not terrible. Still looking for improvement, I'm sure. And the wins obviously matter, right? But if he's going to take the next step, 4th in Lincoln points to 2nd or 1st in Lincoln points, it is a step. So next year, I think this is an onward and upward trend. And I don't think even a B- is being overly critical. But from 4 top 10s to 7 with 10 extra races isn't necessarily like a huge leap at the front half of that top 5. And that's what I expect next year. Everything's in place for that. That's kind of where I'm at.
For me, I just, solid B. He got 2 wins. Not quite nearly half of his races in the top 10, but pretty good stats. I mean, mostly a Lincoln guy, runs some Williams Grove here and there. And I don't know. I thought he had some good things going on with him, and just a lot of momentum towards the end of the season. It really seemed like, and really became a player at Lincoln. I mean, we talked about him early in the season about becoming more of a player there, and I felt like he accomplished that. So getting those 2 wins, he could have had a third. And yeah, Chris, why'd you give him a B?
I mean, exactly what you said. It was a guy that you don't have the highest of ceilings for him, right? We like Aaron and what he's going through as far as not a high dollar team, right? To me, that's a big year, but still 4th in points. It's good. It's a growing thing. It's not an A. It's not an A-. It's not an A+, anything like that. But hell of a lot better than last year.
I know
and he had speed last year, and
Yeah.
we needed consistency, and he's shown that with 4th in Lincoln points.
I know for me, when I was doing these grades, I definitely, because there's kind of 3 categories here. You have the posse, you have the high limit guys, and you have outlaws. And I kind of graded them against their own people, like their own group, and kind of what their expectations were, and the amount of races that they ran, and kind of like percentages. And I think these were decent percentages, and especially going from last year to this year, I really thought it was an upgrade. So,
Agreed.
very solid year. We'll go into the next one here, and we went alphabetical by last name, Devin Borden. Now, this is one, this was tough. And I will say this is one the viewers changed with votes today. So Chris went with the C-. I also went with the C-. Chris went with the D. When I did these graphics last night, viewers were at a C at 16.5%, but the viewers actually gave an F with 17.6%, which I think is a little harsh, but it wasn't a banner season. Jeremy Elliott, what was your take on Borden's season?
Well, I mean, obviously it was a tough year. He had 1 win. The problem with Devin is, okay, I look at everything situation. It's situational racing. That's what this is now. It's much like a quarterback who's drafted in the NFL. Where do they go? What's the situation? He had a new crew chief to start the year. That didn't work out. So then he was making his own calls. That's a tough deal, especially for Devin, who's still kind of green in this whole thing. It takes 5 to 7 years for you to kind of get your foothold in this sport. So you know what? It was C minus, D, C minus, somewhere in there. He didn't have a good year, but there's situations on why that is. So I think the C minus is fair. I don't know what his future holds. So I know he's doing the pressure washing business right now. So, and obviously he doesn't have a ride for next year. So we'll see, but it was definitely not a good year.
Yeah, I can't say it much better than that. I think we all kind of feel the same way. There was a lot of variables, a lot of moving parts. It felt like almost weekly, like who's there, who's not there, who's in, who's out. He dealt with some injury stuff, some hard crashes. There was a lot of moving parts and variables, but at the end of the day, there were 73 opportunities and just didn't capitalize on enough of them all the way around, right? So I think all of us are in that same ballpark, that C minus to D to, a little harsh today with the F, and maybe that F is, unemployed. I don't know. As far as the car ride goes, so that change can happen in a damn hurry around here. We know. So, I think I can't say it much better than Jeremy said it there. To be honest.
Yeah, I couldn't give anything less. I couldn't go D or F when somebody did have at least a win. And he did have 34 top tens. For his expectations, no, it was not a great season, especially coming off the season that he had last year, and in that ride and what their kind of expectations were. But like Jeremy was saying, there's a lot of moving parts with the changing of crew chiefs and then him trying to call his own things, and it just ended up not working out in the end. It's a tough deal for him, but whatever he chooses to do in the future, I think he does have some talent behind the wheel, and I don't think he should give up on that, to be honest. But we'll see what happens, and so for just the audio listeners who might be listening the next day, his 2024 stats were 73 races with 1 win, 11 top fives, and 34 top tens. That 1 win coming at Port Royal in April 13th. Sorry, Chris, you went all the way to a D.
You have a track champion from last year who was not relevant for most of the year.
Yep.
You had that win in April. That's a month into this season, and the only relevance him and that team had, for the most part, was him crashing or being caught in crashes. Again, not necessarily his fault, but that's not
the story you want it to be.
That's not what it was. So we had Chris Shuttlesworth here early in the year, and they were going out on the road. They were trying to do things because Devin was progressing in the sense that, hey, let's go to Eldora, let's go to Knoxville, let's do these things. And that was not the Devin Borden that we've seen the last 3 years here, or whatever it was. I don't know what we saw. I don't know if it was a Devin problem, a team problem, or whatever, or a combination of all the above. But you go from a track champion, you can't win in Port Royal since April. That's wild. And they race there, almost every week?
Almost every week, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. He was hard charger a few times. He passed a lot of cars there, but never got the win. Other than that
shows,
one.
we're talking weekly shows.
Yeah.
Just a non-factor, an afterthought, if you want to go. I think it's fair. Yeah. An afterthought in the Central PA racing scene, an afterthought, other than is he going to crash or not in hot laps. Jay-Z has some pictures of him trying to crash at Lincoln in hot laps.
Hey, Jimmy, I think the Borden, we're seeing it live, but on the stream, they're not seeing Borden's picture. I see it spinning there, so I don't know if we got something going on just as we move forward.
That's weird.
On the live stream, still has Aaron on the screen.
Let me try to bring it back up.
Maybe it's me. I don't know.
I appreciate that. Hopefully it's up now. We're going to move into the next driver, though. You let me know if it's working. We're going to go to Matt Campbell. Matt Campbell's our next driver. Jay-Z with a B-. I went with a B+. Chris went with a B. And the viewers with... actually, this was another one that changed through some of the extra votes today. It was at a B with 19.1% of the votes, but today it went to 20.2% of the votes for A-. And then 18% B+. Thanks, guys, for in the comments letting us know it's good. His 2024 stats: 27 races, 2 wins, 11 top 5s, and 16 top 10s. He was 3rd in Lincoln points. Jeremy Elliott, what was your take on Matt Campbell's season?
I thought it was a big year for him. New team, new combination. I thought he performed well. He had a couple wins. He was consistent in the top 5s. If not for, he would have obviously had more, if not for a couple blown tires. I'll tell you what, out of all the guys in Central PA, I think Matt Campbell has to get into that most improved category. And, I think whatever this team found or whatever they stumbled on or the chemistry they have, it worked. I'm anxious to see what they do next year. I like what I saw. I'm going to give him probably a B+ or even an A- just because of where he was to where he came and where he is right now. New team, that can go either way. Now, obviously, there's a honeymoon stage. There always is when you have a new combination. And they only ran 27 races. So it's a small sample size. But still, I think B+ is fair here. I think Matt did a great job. I think that team did a good job.
I'm actually going to go next because I as I'm looking at this and reading it, I had Aaron and Matt Campbell with a similar jump, and I gave them the same grade because they had a similar jump. But as I look at this, I'm wrong. It's probably a B+, and it's probably closer to Jimmy and all of you guys a little bit further. And I don't even think a B- is a bad thing. But when I look at last year, this year, he only ran 4 more races, but he added 9 top 5s to his stats from last year, from 2 to 11. 0 wins to 2 wins, same as Aaron Bollinger, and he went from 10 top 10s to 16 top 10s. So when we look at that and we go, okay, and not again comparing those two a little bit, Aaron ran 37 races with 17 top 10s.
Yeah.
Right. So I think Matt was in that area of like the closer to that 4th to 6th and some wins, and probably could have had more, and I think is on the path for more. And listen, there's been times this year at Lincoln I got done going, I hadn't seen anybody run the cushion that hard since Brian Monteith. And he was getting it done. It has been a long time since I've seen someone run the cushion in 1 and 2 as hard as he ran it at times this year, and it was making speed. So, I'll retract mine, and I'm going to do a B+, and that's not for any reason other than looking at what I did there and the jump again. Yeah, most improved, very much in that conversation. I agree.
Yeah, I agree as well, and just kind of the percentage. Again, the amount of races he ran and the amount of top 5s and top 10s we have, I thought was really impressive. Yeah, pretty much all at Lincoln. But he's very strong there, and I thought it was a very positive season for him moving forward, and he's definitely somebody to watch out for. Maybe take it take it to, if that's what they're doing, I would imagine. Trying to go for a title maybe at Lincoln next year.
Right, and that segue into I think Aaron and Matt Campbell both are in that Troy Wagaman conversation that we had last year or the year before. Like, they're the kind of guys that can get there if they have a full-time ride and can do it week to week. They can win the Lincoln points, and that's kind of where I'm at. Like, they're learning that it's back off 3% and let's finish these races in the top 5 versus, Aaron Bollinger and Matt Campbell could be fast as hell, or something weird would happen. I think they're learning that. They're taking care of their stuff, and I think they're in that Troy Wagaman path.
Yep.
Like, hey, keep doing this. You'll be in contention for a track championship, I think.
Yep. And Tyler Koenig makes a great point. He went into the final Lincoln points race with a shot at the championship. So, I mean, he was there. He ran well all season, and just continue building, and that's what we want to see. Let's get to the next driver, Lance Dewease, and for me, this one hurt because I'm a big Lance fan, but I don't think anybody would really disagree here. Jay-Z with a C-. I went with the C+. Chris went with the C-, and the viewers, this is another one that this is actually tied with the viewers today. 18.7% for B and 18.7% for a C. So it really looks like everybody's between a C and a B. I don't know if you could go all the way up to a B. 41 races. These are all these stats that I'm listed off here are from sprintcarratings.com. So take that for what it is. 41 races, 2 wins, 7 top 5s, 16 top 10s, a win at Port Royal and Williams Grove. I didn't want to give him below a C in, because he had multiple wins. And, there's times where he was in the mix, and didn't really get the finish. He had a lot of mechanical issues at times this year. And that's where I went with the plus, because I felt like it could have been a lot better. And we know what Lance's, his ability is, but it wasn't a great season. Jeremy Elliott, how'd you feel about Lance's season?
I thought it was a terrible season. I mean,
and Lance would agree.
And the problem is when you give grades, again, it's a team. The driver, if you have a bad car, if you have a great car, then you can evaluate the driver. There's a lot of variables is all I'm saying. I think they expected to be better, especially on the heels of what Shearer did in the Tuscarora 50 a year ago. So I think we expected more. They had a lot of mechanical problems, just kind of odd stuff, even during hot laps or during time trials. A couple nights I was in the pit area. He didn't even take time because something broke or whatever. So not good. Obviously not what we expect from Lance. And I have to give it a D on totality, just because you're Lance Dewease, you get a high expectations. What we saw from the Shearer group last year at the end of the year, I think we expected a lot. But there again, it's the first year together. We'll see how they progress. It just wasn't a good year. I think they would both agree with that. I think Lance would tell you it was a struggle this year.
Chris?
Well, I mean, Jeremy Elliott, when Lance was on your deep dive, he said all those things.
Yep.
And it's yes, we have an expectation for Lance. We know that Sheer car, they have, well, at least from the outside looking in, has the funding. We saw Billy Dietrich there last year in contention for wins and just have goofy things happen. And I don't know what that is, but like when you see Lance at the 50 starting up front and then not win or not even be there, it's weird seeing Lance Dewease go backwards. And I don't know what it is. And yes, he's getting up there. A little bit of age, Father Time never loses. It's just interesting. And I just was not a non-factor almost all year. The 2 wins, but they were both local shows, right? And they started up front. Like, it's just not
I will say,
not the Lance Dewease that we're used to.
I do just want to point out this one comment, and it was something that I factored in. Cheryl Bender, how about the 50? He was leading the 50 for a good at least for a good start, and he looked decent. So, like, and that's kind of where I was, where it was just like there were times where he could have been maybe not winning, but podium maybe, or he was in the mix more than what these stats would suggest. But you're right. It does. It's a totality of it all, and the whole team aspect.
Jeremy
I get
Elliott
it.
said in the beginning of this. Total thing. Lance Dewease expectation is sky high for him, for the team, for the fans, everyone, and it wasn't there. Like, seeing Lance Dewease go backwards in a feature is wild.
Yeah.
When's the last time we've seen that?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to attack the Shears or anything like that. Just like something was different.
Mm-hmm. Jay-Z?
There's something else to think about. Is the 50 rubbered up after like 5 laps.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I mean, it's one race.
Yeah. Go ahead, JC.
I think a C-. I might have been too positive, to be honest. Like, I'm looking at Justin Whittle's 2024 stats.
I give him a C- out of respect, to be honest.
Right. Like, I'm looking at Justin Whittle's 2024 stats. He ran 52 races, but he had 17 top 5s and 28 top 10s. Not to take anything away from Justin. I'm not at all. But what are our expectations for this driver and for this team, like we all talked about? C- might have me being a benefit of the doubt, now that I'm looking at it. So, yeah, I think we all said it. Just a terrible season. They want to move on to 25, hopefully.
Yeah. Daniel Lee brings up a good comment here. Lance's win at the Grove was the night Chad Trout ran out of fuel when he was leading. So, I mean, you got to be in position, but still kind of one of those things that make you think. Tough year. Hopefully, we see something better next year. And next driver, this was a Danny Dietrich. Jay-Z with an A. I went with an A. Chris went with a B+.
First controversy.
And then viewers went with an A at 24.7%, with a B+ at a 16.1%, and an A+ at 16.1%. Majority, quarter of the audience saying an A. His 2024 stats: 81 races with 12 wins, 36 top 5s, 50 top 10s. He was first in BAPS and Central PA points, and he won the Weichert, which he's been trying to knock off for a while. So, very good season for him. I know we had him on for our 100th episode. He had a little bit of a low there. We talked a lot about this with him. But overall, it was a very, very good season. Jeremy Elliott, what was your take on Danny's season?
It's a tough one because he did win I would say a Central Pennsylvania crown jewel. I'm not about to make the Weichert a sprint car racing crown jewel by any stretch, but still wins a big race like that, gets to double-digit wins, which only 10 guys in the country did that.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously great year. My only hesitation with Danny, can we time better?
He's asking the same thing.
Yeah,
I know. Look, I talked to Danny about it, but I think you guys are on the mark there. I think an A-, B+, somewhere in there, because there were a couple races where he just didn't fare well, and there were a couple big shows. So, like when the Outlaws come in and whatnot. But from a local standpoint, other than Anthony Macri, he was the best guy, no doubt about it. And I thought it was a bounce back as far as getting to double digits and winning that big show. I think this is probably the most money that he's won in a season. $75,000 doesn't hurt that. So
yeah.
Danny had a great year. You know what, guys? Points I could care less about. And the reason is because I think point titles don't mean anything anymore.
Yeah, they mean a lot less now.
No offense to the tracks and even the big overall one, the Hoseheads one, which I think it's great that Alan Holland's involved in that. And obviously Sandy Klein, it's a really good deal, but it's tends to sometimes favor guys who run more.
Yeah,
so you run 81 shows. Point titles are nice for the resume, I guess, but that's not a big deal to me. It's not a determining factor. But Danny was really good, passes a lot of cars. Danny can race really well, so credit to him. And it was another solid season for him.
Yeah. Chris, why'd you go with a B+?
So we go back to he wins the Weichert with high limit. All these things locally, A+. Outlaws come to town. Where was Danny? MIA. Again, Posse versus Outlaws, MIA. And if you notice, there's going to be a trend here, and you'll see it with every single one of our track champions. They all got the same grade because they all did the same thing. When the Outlaws came to town, MIA. And it's unfortunate because we know Danny's a good driver. We know he is at this point, our leader, because Lance is, on the backside. And we don't have Fred Rahmer. We don't have Greg Hodden. We don't have those guys. Danny's that guy now, and he's just not there. So I give him a B+. And plus, the fans also said Freddie Rahmer gets a B+ or whatever he got for the year. So I was going to match that because they're a bunch of haters. So I'm just matching the haters. But honestly, it's because big shows outside of the Weichert, which is huge. Don't get me wrong, huge. But as Jeremy Elliott said, not a crown jewel outside of here yet. Outlaws come to town, Danny's MIA.
Brett Strickler makes a great comment here. You only went with a B+ because a relative of his beat you in a foot race. You're so
Logan Rumsey is not related to him.
No, Seth Dietrich though still beat you.
Seth also beat you. You recall you finished last. So listen, I don't disagree.
I'll pull Danny had a bad engine.
I don't disagree with Chris. Are you done?
Not yet.
All right. I don't disagree with Chris, and I don't disagree with Jeremy either on this, and I don't think there's differing opinions there. I think the A for me is, look, it's $255,000 and mainly local. Now, $75,000 to win race certainly made a big dent in that. Last year he made it 190 grand he earned, right? So there's your 75 grand. But at the end of the day, 7 wins last year to 12 this year. Not what he wanted. Danny Dietrich has never entered a race that he didn't want to win. But 12 wins scattered all across 81 races is some of the tops in the country.
Yep.
Period. End of sentence. Like it's like I'm not like I don't want to downplay it's local or not, but I don't really give a shit. Like no one else around other than Macri, and he won a little bit of everything. We'll get to his grade later, but like no, everyone else had the same chance Danny did locally to win 12 races and didn't, right? So what am I really comparing it to? And I don't disagree, Chris, with when the Outlaws come to town, but he did his damn job for the most part, and I'm sure he's not upset about 255 grand in winnings this year. Maybe, like Jeremy said, a career high.
Sure.
So
It just makes me think of, like, if we're in California, who is that guy out in California winning all the races that we never hear about because we're in Pennsylvania?
Justin Sanders.
Yeah.
we'd hear about it. Yeah, Corey Day, Justin Sanders, when they were out there. But we know.
Yeah.
Something to think about, guys. There are 8 World of Outlaw shows in this area. Danny top 10'd it in 4 of them.
There you go.
And had a top 5 at Lincoln. He finished 4th. He didn't disappear. I just think we expect him to be contending for a win, especially at Lincoln. So I would have to say
It's
minus
accurate.
4. Yeah, I mean, 4 top 10s against that field in 8 races. I'm good with it.
And
that's
that
accurate. Like, Danny passed a ton of cars too. A lot of those.
That was
Like, again, back to the racer. We know how good he is.
Yeah. I went with an A because not only because of the stats, but he showed up at Port when the big guys, like the high limit too. I mean, he was good at Port, but like it seemed like when Weikert and Tusky were there, it's just like he had to win the non-qualifiers race for Tusky last year because he just wasn't that great at Port Royal, and he was very good, especially obviously for the Weikert, and that was something that kept me between an A- and an A. And I really thought that he showed up for some of that, passed a lot of cars, and was pretty much the best guy here in PA.
So Jeremy mentioned something about the top 10s. When you go back and we look at it, the Gettysburg Clash, 24th to 9th. Okay. You look at Summer National, 17th to 10th, 12th to 10th. You go a little bit further. There's the Kramer Clash. There's the Labor Day. There's the night before. We got all those. But yeah, like 24th to 14th in the National Open. The prelim, he didn't make the prelim that night. But yeah, I mean, it's one of them deals where he's fighting in the top 5s and wins if he could just start inside the top 12.
Yes.
Yeah, just time better.
Just time better.
Yep.
Time trials.
And
we all know
he admitted that. He admitted that.
Yeah.
He did, yeah.
Next year, when he starts inside the top 5 and finishes 8th, we're killing him. We're killing him. Killing him. All right, who's next?
Hey, Seth Dietrich agrees. Maybe if Daniel timed better, he wouldn't have to pass so many cars. Tyler Koenig, before we move on, Tyler Koenig has a quick question for Jeremy Elliott. How many drivers had more wins in the country than Danny?
2.
There you go.
I believe it's 2.
Is it Macri and who?
David Gravel.
David Gravel.
Macedo was tied with him at 12.
There you go.
Yeah. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Courtney was also tied with him.
Tyler Courtney also at 12. Correct. Gravel and Macri.
All right, next driver is a guy that had made some headlines right before we came on the show on SprintCarUnlimited.com. Chase Dietz. Some news about him before we get into the grades. He's going to the Stamen 23. Jeremy, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, this came down. It was a tough decision for Chase. He's really built his own deal into a pretty potent car. They, especially in time trial shows, the last half of this year, they were really good. I think bringing in Kurt Williamson to help out a little bit has definitely aided that team. But again, he's running his own deal. So he moves over to Stamen. It came down to people and finances. You have to weigh, whereas if he gets in an accident in his own car or a wreck, he's out 1 to 2 weeks. Plus his whole crew works full-time jobs. Goes over to Stamen, he doesn't have to worry about that. There's plenty of cars, plenty of motors, and Tommy Carl coming over to that mix. The former crew chief of Zemco car up at Port Royal, bringing him over was key to getting Chase Dietz to sign on the dotted line there. But it makes sense. I mean, it makes sense for Chase because now he's not fitting the bill. And I think every driver in the country's, other than Brian Brown, is probably okay not having to pay the freight. So it makes sense. We'll see if it pans out to wins, but it'll be interesting to see Tommy Carl and Chase Dietz together again. They were together last year at Port Royal in the Zemco car. And so there's good chemistry. They like each other. Now they have plenty of resources. So I'm interested to see how this combination does next year.
And what was your grade for Chase?
It's very hard for me to give Chase a bad grade because I like that team so much, especially in a time trial situation. Again, I think you're in the B plus A minus range. I think he took another step this year. The consistency was a little better. And I think Chase, again, a couple of years ago, I would have said he was the most improved driver. Can't say that now because he came out of the box pretty good in 2023. But I really like what I see from him. I think he can contend with the Macris and the Dietrichs of the world in Central Pennsylvania. People forget he was contending in the top 5 of the National Open when him and Sheldon had their incident in turns 3 and 4. He finished 3rd in the National Open prelim. So I think Chase, again, 27. I think we haven't seen the best of Chase Dietz yet.
I agree. I think this move to the 23 is really good. It could be, at least has the potential to be. We'll see how it plays out. So, in terms of grades here, Jay-Z went with a B plus. I went with a B plus, and so did Chris. The viewers with an overwhelming 37% with an A. And his stats were 53 races with 2 wins, 20 top 5s, 39 top 10s. For me, the only thing that kept him out of the A range was he only had 2 wins. But we know he was fast enough to win. He could have won at BAPS on Saturday, you know. He got wins at Lincoln and Williams Grove and was second in Port Royal points, and he might have won that title if the Zemco hauler crash doesn't happen. You never know. He probably got a couple stolen away from him there. But his top 5s to top 10s were undeniable, and his speed was just visually there. Especially, I really, you're saying National Open. He really shocked me at National Open. You know, we were expecting Danny, we're expecting Macri, we're expecting a couple of those guys, Rahmer, Wagaman, really to be in the mix, and we didn't really talk about Chase Dietz, and he was probably the best PA guy that weekend. Jay-Z.
Yeah, this was fringe, right? The 2 wins is what holds me back from the A, a solid A. And I just looked at it, there's 11 second and third places combined. So like podium, right? I mean, right on that edge. So many nights, it was so close. Most of the nights he was not leading and lost the lead. Most of the nights he was chasing it. He was there. He just needed the right thing to fall. Most of those nights and come up through or held his own and got there. So inside those top 5s, 11 of those were a second or a third. So right on that fringe. This had to, like Jeremy mentioned, this has to be a tough decision because the momentum, the positive forward momentum of what they built this year over the last 2 years to get to what you see here, man, you just kind of look at this and go, he could win 10 races, 12 races next year on this trajectory. It was that close. This year, could that, you hate to see anything derail that. So, I think I read in the article, Jeremy's article, that they ordered Maxims, right? I'm sure that they're doing everything they can to get him as comfortable as he can and where he's comfortable in what he's been doing, right? Like, it reminds me sort of the Brent Marks situation a little bit, like, or any other driver comes over and or switches rides and they try to do everything they can to accommodate what you were rolling in and what you had in our stuff. So yeah, hopefully that combination kicks off strong, and we need a guy like Chase Dietz to be really good around here when it's the right time, and he's on that edge. So I'm excited for what hopes are high, but also realistic on growing pains, right? So I think we all are going to set the bar very high, which is fair, but I think it's a wait and see, and we just have to be, watch and hope for the best.
Chris?
I mean, everything y'all said, I think it's crazy. 2 years ago, Chase Dietz to say, "Hey, I'm starting my team." They built that thing from the ground up in a hurry, right? And they were fast in the beginning. Look at him now; like he's a different driver now. He's a mature driver, I would say, compared to where he was when he drove for Trone and things like that. The Zemco, the fact that he didn't really win the championship in Zemco is amazing because they were fast. Jimmy, we were there when he should have won that night. That Wingless Sportsmen were there back in April.
Yeah. Yep.
Kaufman.
They blew a tire, I believe.
Blew a tire. Like he's always there. He time trials well. He races well. Always there.
Yeah.
We know the 23. You know the 23 team is good. We know how good they are. Devin Borden won a track championship with them literally a year ago. Whatever happened there is unfortunate, and I just think Chase is going to bring a different perspective. Right? He's a little bit older, a little bit more mature as a person and a driver. And they're bringing some key people. Like they're bringing key people that helped him go fast with Zemco and stuff. Like they're doing it the right way this time, and we know that team is good overall. Give him a B+ because it's hard to grade him. He's always there, but he's had 2 wins. He's always there. It's like, he's always a factor, but not a winner, which is weird because he this last year that stat line probably an A+. It's just kind of the growth of it, the progression, or at least an A.
Yeah,
just the progression of it. Like I like where it's going. I think it's going to be a good combination next year as long as they listen to each other and work as a team.
Yeah, there's a lot of ingredients there to make for something special next year with that 23 car. We'll see how that plays out. Let's get to our next driver, and this is probably one of the best in the country, Mr. Anthony Macri. 2024 stats: 85 races, 15 wins, 38 top 5s, 53 top 10s. He was the PA Speed Week champion. I wanted to point out his 5th place finish at the Knoxville Nationals, which I thought was really impressive. That was my big impressive thing with him this year. Jay-Z went with an A+. I went with an A. Chris with an A-, and the viewers with a 32.3% of an A. Jeremy Elliott, how would you grade Anthony's season?
I want to know what the other 68% are thinking.
There was 26.9% A+, and then there was 15% A-. So pretty much 75% all in the A range.
Okay, what's wrong with the other 25%?
So there was 10% that gave him an F. They're just haters.
Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, this is a slam dunk A. It just keeps improving at the Knoxville Nationals. Yep. Let's face it, on the road, first it was Anthony couldn't win at Lincoln. Well, then he did that. Well, then he, obviously he's a Port Royal homer. Now that's the one place he doesn't win as much. He can win at Williams Grove. He can win on short tracks. A year ago, I saw him win at 34 Raceway against High Limit. I've seen him beat the All-Stars on the road. Now Knoxville, he's always struggled at Knoxville. Now he's getting better at Knoxville. He was 5th this year. Just a spectacular run. So, bounces back. He had 23 wins a few years ago. Then he drops back down after the stuff with his family deal last year to 7 or 8, and then back up to 15 this year. Struggled at the end of the season. I think his average finish probably the last, I know going into BAPS, it was 17th for his previous 5 starts. I'll overlook that. I don't care. It's an A. Slam dunk A. He has a great team behind him with Repitz and Mooney, who are there full time. That's what they do. And Anthony, obviously pick and choose schedule, earns a lot of money doing it. Can't fault him from that as well. So, the win at Houston, it's okay. But again, Macri looks really good. It's an A. Slam dunk. A.
Yeah. Jimmy, what's your evaluation? Jimmy, you've been letting us do ours.
I thought it was an incredible season for him. The only reason I didn't go with a plus was just some of the, especially towards the last part of the season here in PA, kind of wasn't really like a factor. He was, had a lot of issues or was wrecking himself or what have you. So just like National Open, he wasn't really a factor and everything. But I mean, we're talking small points off of here. He was phenomenal all year, and he was very impressive all over the country. And he was still a factor. He was still probably, if he, I don't know what his plans are for next year. Whether it's a lot of the same thing or if he goes out on the same thing. Okay, cool. That's good to know because I didn't know if he was going to go join a tour or not. But I think if he continues on this path of what he's doing, kind of like True Outlaws, run mostly at home, but then go out for some of these bigger shows, he's going to knock one of them off, I think. And he's just so competitive wherever he goes, and he's definitely best posse driver, I think, at this point.
Yeah, and I did the A+ here as I looked at this, and a little bit off of last year, as bad as that win, and the big rebound, right? And it wasn't
That's
the
true.
23 wins, but a huge rebound from what could have been really disastrous long term. Like, it didn't go well when he wasn't in the 39. It really didn't go well, and for me, it's an A+. It's $368,000. To put that in perspective, Sheldon Haudenschild earned 394. Donny Schatz earned 359. Okay. So picking and choosing, moving around, going to places he hasn't been. Like Jeremy said, going to places where we all pigeonholed him into this guy. And he's shown the ability to be fast at places he's never been, big track, small track, all around. And you take 15 wins and win $370,000 racing against the best of the best, I think you've done it right. And could it have been better? Last year, 3 less races. He actually had 2 more top 5s, and he had 4 more top 10s. Or excuse me, I'm sorry. This year he had more top 10s, but last year he actually had 2 more top 5s than this year. But 8 wins to 15 wins and added $150,000 to his bank account than last year. So I don't know how that could be anything but, right? That AA+ range. That's where I'm at. And when I look at guys I'm comparing him to around the country, he's there, right? And especially not on a series, traveling up and down the road, 84 races, and they kept it all together. So I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah, I think he's by far the best true outlaw. Not that there's that many now with high limit, to be honest, but he's definitely the best out of that group. Like where he could just show up anywhere in the country and go win. I'm kind of curious as to why Chris went with an A-, but we're gonna Chris.
I also want to know why his profile picture's your face.
Because I changed it before.
I love Jimmy's face. That's why.
That sounds
I don't know,
right.
because all those wins and the back half of the year kind of feel like he faded down a little bit, and a lot of his big wins weren't on the national tour. So it's a great year, but he wasn't winning, running the full high limit skill like a Brent Marks or even Brent Marks didn't do that. But in general,
are you giving him lesser of a grade because he didn't follow a tour?
Yes, kind of.
That's what it sounds like. Yeah,
I'm giving less of a grade because he has a lot of wins, not on a tour.
Yeah, but he's got high he has high limit wins.
A-, man.
Okay.
What do you want from me?
Macri. All right, moving on. Got
it. All right. We're going to move on. And this is what I was really disappointed with the fans on. Again, 2 years in a row, because you guys did this last year, and we reamed you guys out. And
we have a lot of Danny fans.
And that's fine. That's fine. But,
we have a lot of haters.
There's so much hate. Freddie Rahmer. Jay-Z went with the B-. I went with the B. Chris went with the B+. The viewers here at an overwhelming 28% went with F. 15% for B. Those are the smart people. You 15% and the 13% with the B+. You guys are the smart people, in my opinion. Not have your hater shades on. 2024 stats: 62 races, 2 wins, 32 top 5s, 42 top 10s. Williams Grove points champion and second in Lincoln points. Jeremy Elliott, your thoughts on Freddie Rahmer?
Well, I think all 3 of you are very generous.
Okay.
Because you don't drop from 17 wins to 2.
Fair. That's fair.
That's true.
And 14 wins at Lincoln down to 1. I mean, still is consistent though. The one thing about Freddie is they just struggled to get wins this year. A lot of consistency though. Obviously wins. He won the point title at the Grove, I believe. Which again, I don't really pay attention to those much, but you know what? They're consistent. Yeah. And there's a couple times they had some mechanical trouble this year. I got to give him a C-. It just and it's not so much that Freddie's a bad driver or anything like the people who gave him an F, but 17 wins to 2. I mean, it comes down to that. and 1 win at Lincoln. If you would have told me that Freddie Rahmer would only have 1 win at Lincoln, I would have taken that bet all day long and probably bet my apartment rent on it for the year. So I would have lost. So I just don't think they timed well at times. They struggled with that this year, I think, more than they did the previous year. But C-, I give him the C part of it because he's consistent. He's at least finishing in the top 5. You can see the stats there over half the time.
Yeah.
And the top 10, but they did have some mechanical trouble and they just didn't win races. I thought he'd come back with like 8 wins, 9 wins, something like that. I didn't expect him to get 17, but I expected 8 to 9 wins and he fell short of that. So that's why I say a C-. Doesn't mean he's a bad driver.
Mm-hmm.
It just means that sometimes you have a bad season, and his season, I think if you ask Freddie, he'll tell you it didn't measure up.
Yeah. And I gotta preface this with I was kind of angry with the viewers because last year 17 wins, had a phenomenal season, and the fans still gave him an F, and that just felt like a lot. That's just kind of ridiculous. So I agree to the extent. I gave him a B because he was so consistent. He had half of his races in the top 5. He didn't get the wins, but I felt like the competition on the local level, when you add guys like Matt Campbell, you add Aaron Bollinger, Troy Wagaman, who we're going to get into, a couple other guys. It's kind of stepped up from last year where Freddie couldn't be as dominant. But yeah, he did take a step back from last year and couldn't give him an A. He was very good. He was very consistent. But just not as good of a season as last year. But he had such a great season last year. It's hard to hold that against him. Jay-Z?
Yeah, probably the 32 top 5s is what held me in the B category, honestly. I think it speaks as much to the competition stepping up as it is as much as a little bit of a decline in their overall winning performance and speed. Because there were nights I'd watch him race and it wasn't like he was going backwards, or it just didn't have that drive to get up there and pass some of those guys that I think got better this year. And I think it does speak a little bit to the improved quality of the race cars, especially at Lincoln. I think there was a big uptick in the Matt Campbells and the Aaron Bollingers and the Troy Wagamans. Like him and Troy were every week we're in the same spot. That dominance absolutely did not match up. And I don't blame Jeremy Elliott at all for the C-. I only held on to the B grade and I barely held on to the B- because of the 32 top 5s. 32 top 5s and 62 races in Central PA is nothing to sneeze at. So, yeah, I agree 100% that I think if you asked him right here now, he'd probably give himself a freaking F, right? Because that's their expectations. Again, these guys don't go out on the track and go, I hope I finish in the top 5 tonight. But at the same time, you run Central PA that many times and you get 32 out of 62 top 5s, not the worst thing that's ever happened. And I don't know if I like it for the competition next year if it comes back in full force. And man, I don't know about 17 wins anywhere, but damn, I fired up team and get it all back on track. Could be dangerous next year.
Chris, you went with the plus.
He's a track champion, Williams Grove, and if Troy has any issues at the final 50, he's a double track champion locally. Yes, the wins weren't there, but he was always a problem. Everyone thought about him every week at the track. Was this last year? No. A lot of things went right for that team and him last year. I think I'd agree. He wouldn't be happy with this year. Again, the outlaw shows, all that stuff, they were MIA, quote unquote. Like they weren't a factor to win, but they were in the shows. Go P+. He's track champion. And damn near 2-time this year alone. So it's hard. I know we expect him to win, but
yeah. Tyler Koenig, real quick, says Freddie's problem was not making the handicap out of the heats at Lincoln. I'd like to know how many second and thirds he had. And then Dan So says I gave him a C, and honestly, it was because he had less wins with the season, even though he won the points championship at the Grove. So there's some of the fan feedback there. The Fs, I could get it. For somebody who's always there every week.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next one. And this is the guy he lost to at Lincoln, but finished second to Freddie at Williams Grove. And basically, these were guys on pretty close on the same level all year. Troy Wagaman Jr. 56 races, 3 wins, 26 top 5s, 42 top 10s, Lincoln Points champion, 3rd in Speed Week points, and 2nd in Williams Grove points. Jay-Z went with a B. I and my Chris and myself went with a B+, and the viewers at an overwhelming 30% went with an A+. Jeremy Elliott, what would you rate Troy Wagaman's season?
I like this combination a lot. I liked it last year when they got together. I've always thought when Troy was in his own stuff that I'd like to see him get a chance. And he got that chance. Mike Hefner rolled the dice a little bit. Also have Ben Engel as a crew chief for that team coming from the super sportsman ranks. Now he was always in the pit area with Greg and Ryan Hand, my co-host on our podcast. So he knew what he was doing, but I really like this combination. I think it works. I think they get along. I know there's a lot of chemistry there, and I like what they're building. I like his consistency. I know the wins weren't real high, but again, this comes to expectation. I don't expect him to win 17 races. I don't expect Troy Wagaman to win double digits. Not yet. He still does not have a lot of starts in a 410 sprint car. But I like him a lot. I like this combination. I give it a B+. I think that's right on the mark there. Nice kid, works hard at it, and I like him with Hefner Racing, and I hope he stays there for a long time.
Jay-Z?
Yeah, and I'm a solid B here, and I just really think, man, it was such a great start to the season, huge positive momentum all the way through Speed Week, and it just sort of faded a little bit late season. And I think that they had some mechanical stuff, and they were just off a little bit late season. It's a long season, right? 56 races for them. That's a lot of races for Troy. It's a lot of races for that team, and I think they're I don't think anyone got tired, but I think at the same time they just lost a little bit of that mojo that they started off so strong. I mean, he won the icebreaker. Do we remember that, right? Like he won the icebreaker, and that's one of those 3 wins, and that's in February. So, and I think self-admittedly, you talk to Troy, he gives himself a D. Like that's Troy, and he's very humble. He's very self-deprecating that way. But we all know Troy's potential, and I think we saw it last year going into this year, and this is a phenomenal year. Again, I just talked to Freddie in the stats we showed. 42 out of 56 races in the top 10. 26 out of 56 in the top 5. Do we expect Freddie 17 win level? No, we're not there yet. Just like Jeremy said, I agree 1,000%. I think the trajectory could get there. I'm excited for next year for sure. And I think it was, he picks off a win or two at the end of the season. He wasn't that far off on a few. This is solidly B+ to an A- for me. But I just think it's a tremendous year. I'm not taking anything away from it. This is all the things. I mean, full Speed Week, 3rd in points. I don't know if they expected that, right? I don't know if that might have exceeded their own expectations, right? They went to some tracks he'd really never been to. He ran, where did he run at Port? He made the Tusky, right? After not winning the non-qualifiers race the year before to making the Tuscarora 50 this year. Like, what a leap that is on a track that he's probably ran 6 features at ever in his life. So really, really great season.
Yeah, and that's why I went with the plus. One, because he had one more win than Freddie, so I went with a little knock up. But also, just going to somebody's, he ran so good at Selinsgrove and Hagerstown, and like some of these other tracks he's never been to, for Speed Week, and was very consistent, and his overall just rapid improvement at Port. I mean, he made the redraw wheel that one night during the Tusky. He was very good. So I'm really excited to see what this team can do to continue. Yeah, they did fall off a little bit towards the end of the season, which is why I agree it shouldn't be an A. But I think it's a phenomenal season from him.
I just want to point something out. We were asked about Rahmer. Rahmer had 10 third place finishes and 7 second place finishes.
Damn. That's
so
there's 17 podiums or 7. Well,
other than
19 podiums. Yeah, 19 podiums right there. So that's wild. Real quick, Brandon Gibson says Troy started off extremely strong, fell down a little bit at the end, but not very far down. He gave him a B+. Chris, you went with the B+. Any other comments?
No, it's just the same thing. Like, hyper impressive year for Troy and that team. But again, track champion, him and Freddie doled it out at Williams Grove, kind of the flip of the Lincoln thing. But again, Outlaws come to town and not a factor to the win. So he gets a B+. That's just kind of how I want track champions here. Like, hey, when we need you most, Posse versus Outlaws, where were you?
Sure. All right, let's go to our next one. We got a couple more for Posse here. Logan Wagner went with Jay-Z went with a B-. I'm sorry. I went with a B+. Chris went with a B-. The viewers with 20.7% of the vote went with a B. His 2024 stats: 28 races, 5 wins, 10 top 5s, 17 top 10s. All 5 wins were, of course, at Port. Very limited schedule, but looked very strong in the 69K. Jeremy Elliott, Logan Wagner season.
Well, I'm a little angry because I said he'd get 7 wins, 1 away from Port Royal. So I don't like being made a liar out of. But no, it was okay. I mean, it was a B. He came B-. I think that's fair. Took him a little while to get going. I expected this combination to get going a little more. Showed some flashes at Port Royal. Problem with Logan is he doesn't get to run enough races outside of Port Royal. And for this team to improve, for this combination to improve, that needs to happen. It just does.
Yeah.
I don't know what their schedule is going to be next year, but at Port Royal, Logan and this team are really good. Not surprised at all by the 5 wins. You know, I expect that. And really, the Logan aside, this team just does not slow down. They were fast at Texas with Darren Petman. Showed a little bit of speed down at Charlotte. I don't understand the move in turn 2. I'll be honest with Macri. But again, I'd like to see Logan get more laps other places because I think then it would be an even better combination. But a B. B's good.
Yeah, I agree. If he gets more laps somewhere else, it could really, go up. We know he's good at Port Royal. We know the 69K is good at Port Royal. I went with the plus just because it was 5 wins. That's a lot more than everybody else that we've talked about here on this list for the most part. And, he's kind of doing what he's expected to do to an extent. There were some races at Port where maybe he, whatever happened, but he could have got a couple more wins there. But B+, I think 5 wins out of 28 races is not bad. Jay-Z, Chris?
Spot on. Yeah, I agree. More races for Logan Wagner be good. We know that car's fast. We saw Ryan Smith and BAPS look stupid fast in that car. I don't know. Big fan of Logan Wagner.
Yeah. And then we'll go to his dad, Mike Wagner, who won the Port Royal Points Championship. Jay-Z went with a B. I went with a C+. Chris went with a B+, and the viewers with 23.9% of the vote went with a B. 24 races, 1 win, 6 top 5s, 11 top 10s. He was the Port Royal Points champion, which is one reason why he's kind of even on this list. Jeremy Elliott, what did you see from Mike Wagner this year?
I'd say C+ because I expect more top 5s.
Mm-hmm.
I don't expect him to win 5 to 10 races. And they only run like the stats say, 25 shows a year, if that. So, but I'm used to seeing Mike Wagner be in the top 5 50% of the time at Port Royal at least, and he fell short of that. So he's not even really 50% of the time in the top 10. So I believe that says 11. So C+. I'm good with that.
Yeah, I agree. I expected him to be up front a little bit more, but I do also think that's a little bit of a testament to the Port Royal weekly group has grown and has gotten more competitive, I think, as well over time, as well. So, when you add Chase Dietz into that mix, I mean, Devin Borden looked pedestrian. You had guys like Michael Walter, who we're going to talk about in a second, and everything. So, just the 1 win and not really up in the top 10 as much. He did a couple spot starts at Williams Grove, I think like 1 or 2, and he looked decent. But really, I mean, limited congratulations on the points championship. He was consistent. He was there, but not really like a guy that you would expect to ever go in and win a race really throughout the season, So, JC, you went with a B.
Yeah, I just did because track champ matters some, and I don't know why, but I feel like there's this mystique around the Port Royal Track Championship just because the list of guys who won it, and there was a lot of repeats, and a lot of guys who won and won and won and won, and winning it, I don't think is like no small feat necessarily. That crowd up at Port Royal, the crew that runs up there is really strong, and I feel like there's a night we talked about it where 6, 8, 10 guys could win on any given night. It feels like sometimes. And I did this because I think he's won a track championship now in 3 different decades. He gets an extra half a grade for that alone. Longevity and like persistence. I'm in for all that. Like this might have been my sympathy B for the night, so I'll just go with that. But listen, I think it's pretty impressive. I mean, he hangs around. They show up. They obviously not a lot of DNFs this year because I think last year was a couple hard wrecks, right? You put him out at the end of the season. There was some big stuff there. So I think showing up, being there, limited amount of receipt time, and win a Port Royal Track Championship, I think that speaks a lot for a team that doesn't race a lot. I think that's pretty impressive. So, yeah, I don't have to be right on that one, but I think that's impressive to win 3 different decades, once in each decade, by the way. I think is what I read. So, like, and it wasn't even consecutive decades. I think it was like the 80s, the 2000s, and the 20. Like, I don't even remember what it was, but it was wild. I think we looked it up like earlier this year, didn't we?
Yeah, it was nuts. Chris, you went with a B+, and Seth Dietrich agrees with you. He says, "Don't dog on Mike. Beat your 23. Beat the 23, 33, 1, 69. Aren't those your top dogs? Deserves more of a B+."
Him and Randy Kopp kind of go with why I got here. So track champion, coming back from what he went through, coming back from the injuries, and yes, I never expected Mike Wagner to go out and win multiple shows a year, or like double digits, as Jeremy Elliott says, or when the Outlaws or High Limit come to town. No, he's not my pick. He's the guy that could sneak in and win. So the one win, not big. The track championship and coming back from what he went through, B+. That's where I put him at for that.
So real quick, 11th at the Weikert, 12th at the Tuscarora 50, 4th at the Kaufman Classic.
Right.
I mean, the
That's
Kaufman's
where I
a
expect
little
him to
different,
be.
but if I look at the Weikert, 11th against that field, and Tuscarora 50, 12th, that's nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah.
I think
fair.
Maybe I'm crazy, but I think that's not like the top 5s. I agree with Jeremy on like you'd like to see more top 5s out of that, but I think for 24 races, that's a pretty good little overachievement, and for the big shows for a team like that. I don't know.
For sure.
Anyway,
I agree.
91, 2011, 2024 was his championship.
91, 2011, 2024. Yeah, pretty wild.
All right, 2 more here. Michael Walter. He, Port Royal regular, but he also runs Stevens Grove, Williams Grove. Jay-Z, C-. I went with the C. Chris with the C+. The viewers with 27% of the votes went with a C. 2024 stats: 38 races, 0 wins, 8 top 5s, 11 top 10s, 4th at Port Royal points. Jeremy Elliott, what you feel about Michael Walter?
Well, again, this comes to expectation, and I think a C's fine. You want to see a win or something like that, but he has some top 5s. He had some good showings, had some top 10s that were solid. You'd like to see him sneak in a win there, but I think a C's fair because I don't think anybody. I mean, if you're betting in Vegas, what's the odds on him winning 2 races a year? You're probably getting plus 500 on that at least. So, and that's nothing against him. It's just, new combination, so on and so forth. So yeah, C. I'm good with a C.
Yeah, and I think for us, we had higher expectations for him going into this year, just because he looked really strong last year, and and him in that 77 deal, and he could have he was in the running for a couple wins this year, and that's why I went with just a solid C. Hopefully he can improve on that and continue this upward trajectory. Jay-Z?
No, yeah, for sure. And we got to talk to Mike a lot, and I get to see him throughout the season and chat with him, and really like spending time. And he's always open to have a conversation on how the week's going and what things are going. And I think we have to remember too, he hops back and forth, the 77 to 33, and to my knowledge, are pretty different programs, and in different directions and different feels. And he even jumped into the 1W at the end of the year at Williams Grove just to feel like, hey, I know this car and I'm missing a feel. So I think he's still trying to figure it out a little bit. And he had a tough year. I think personally there were some things in the background, and attention and focus, and which is whatever. We like Mike a lot. We'd love to have him back on the show again for sure. And we're definitely rooting for the guy. And I'm sure it's not the year he fully expected, but also 8 top 5s is not awful.
Right.
Yeah,
but I'm sure all of our expectations are a little bit more.
And that's kind of to take that. It's that the 2-ride deal, the 77 car, and how he made that car. We know where, I don't know, at least from my perspective, that was never a top 5 car. It is now, at least more than it's somewhat often, right? And we used to see the 33 up there, at least being a fringe top 5, and him taking the 77 there, that gives me the C+. Honestly, that's what it is.
Tyler Koenig, real quick, he says, Michael Walter, what could have been if he didn't get passed by Macri on the last lap of at Williams Grove earlier in the year? He almost had one there.
What's what they all could have been?
It coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Yeah, that's Koenig, though. I talk to him, he goes, well, if this would have happened, well, if my sister would be a guy, I'd have a brother. I mean,
it's a very pilot.
Big facts.
Oh, that's funny.
I mean,
yeah, it's a fair point.
shoulda, coulda, woulda. All the time.
One last one for the posse before we get to some of the traveling guys. Justin Whittle. 2024 stats: 53 races, 3 wins, 17 top 5s, 29 top 10s, wins at Port Royal, Williams Grove, and Bridgeport just recently. Jay-Z went with a B+. I went with a B. Chris also went with a B+. And actually, this one changed a little bit since I did the graphic. 23% went with an A. 20% with an A+. So somewhere between an A and an A+ is where the viewers are on this one. Jeremy Elliott, Justin Whittle's season.
This could be my most improved of the year. I don't think there's anybody who's taken as many hard hits as Justin Whittle has. He had that one at Port Royal this year that was scary. But after that incident at Port Royal on the front stretch, where he took a really bad header, he's been really good. Mm-hmm. I like the direction Justin Whittle's going. I like what I see from him. He's more controlled. And stats, I don't think the stats reflect how far he's come in just even a few months from when he was in that incident. I believe it was in May. So I like what Justin Whittle. I'm going to give him an A. Just from, you guys talk about coming back from something. He did it within the span of a month.
Yeah.
2 months. Okay, we're not talking an off season. And I thought we saw a totally different driver once he came back and kind of got the cobwebs out, because he came back, tried to run, couldn't run time trials, and he was out of the car for a couple weeks. But his Bridgeport performance, that was a close race until like 10, 12 to go, and he won by 6 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, he was flawless. I just think Justin Whittle has taken huge steps in the last 3 months of the season. And I like what I see moving forward. I'm hoping everything stays together with his own deal and he comes back with that next year. And I'm anxious to see what he does. So I'll give him a B+. In fact, I'm going to give him an A.
Yeah. This is probably one I would probably bump up into a B+ and be in line with Jay-Z and Chris here. He was really good, and kind of the only reason I kept him away from an A was just because he did have that little bit of a lull in the season, but obviously for good reason. Just very good season from him. He's definitely on the upward trajectory here, where he's going to be a guy that continues running around here. As he is, he's one of those guys for posse. Even though he's New Jersey, one of those guys for posse that we can really expect maybe to show out against the high limit and outlaw guys. You know what I mean? So, Jay-Z?
Yeah, it's almost like if we took this this guy and said, grade him from June on. What do you got? A.
Yeah,
It's an
man,
A.
you know.
Right? Like it's an A. He comes back and this is what. But that's how close I was anyway. 0 wins to 3 wins. Okay, it was only 9 more races. Let's talk about this. Only 9 more races from last year. Plus 14 in top 5s. Plus 14 in top 10s. Actually 15 because I missed a race because of BAPS. But he doubled his top 10s. He 3 top 5s to 17 top 5s. Like all the makings of what you're looking for there for a breakout into next season. And if you scroll down on sprintcarratings.com and just kind of look at the numbers of finishing order, and it's not like the beginning of the season was a slouch, but there was some, he went down to Volusia into 0. I think it was 0 car, right? The Glenn Spires deal.
Yeah.
But you come home and there's some double digits. He ran Lincoln, there's Williams Grove, there's a couple top 5s scattered, and then there's some, there's the Weichert. But then you look post June and 11th, there's a 17th at Lincoln and the Outlaws, right? 21st to 17th in a different car. Then he started the switch, October. So, but like, just a fantastic second half of the year. Great positive momentum. Also looking forward to 67 and what they got going for next year because they have a right combination. It feels like right now, and man, couldn't be more excited to see what he has for 2025.
Chris,
all the same things. I mean, I picked up the B+ because of that Port Royal crash. We saw him not leave in a good way, as he told us on the show the other week. It worked out well for him. He gets a nurse girlfriend now out of it, but bless his heart.
That never happened to me.
Right. I guess that a crash race car is harder or something. But and even like Cheryl says in the chat, like he's just always happy. So it's hard to root against this guy, right? Always smiling, always has that down to earth grin. But like, yeah, you saw what he did in his own car, and then goes into 23 and
performed well there too.
Oh, I don't want to say it was all him, but the car looked better.
Yeah,
at least at BAPS, right? He drove hard charger at the Fingerbinder race in October. Like, he's just a good dude, and it's hard to not respect that. And you saw how he drove Bridgeport, right? Flag to flag, just dominated.
Yeah,
so.
For sure. That's going to be it for the posse guys here. There is somebody I completely missed when making this form, and I'm going to apologize profusely for that in the write-in section later. But for now, that's all the posse guys. We're going to get in the high limit and outlaws right now. We're going to try to go through these maybe a little bit quicker just because,
it's posse and, it's high limit and outlaws. That's why.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. High limit first. Rico Abreu. Hell of a season for him. 2024 stats: 71 races, 11 wins, 31 top 5s, 50 top 10s, third in high limit points, Silver Cup, Cappy Classics, Skagit Nationals, and our Tusky 50 winner. Myself, Jay-Z, and 40% of the viewers went with an A. Chris, you went with a B. Jeremy Elliott, what would you do?
Well, considering he's third money one, I mean, sixth in wins. Had some lulls this year, but all in all, I give him an A-. Like I said, it seems like everybody had lulls this year, though, in the national level. So A-. But Rico was solid. Third in money one, $560,000. I mean, I'm not clearing that. So I think Rico did just fine.
Yeah, Chris, why'd you go with a B?
I think the lulls, like that start of the year, they were struggle. It felt like the start of the year, and I kind of expected him to challenge Brad Sweet for that title. And
oh, come on!
I'm sorry.
Come on!
Look at it last year where he was like going at it. Come on, Brad Sweet also went missing, and still no one could do anything about it.
Yeah, but he finishes in the top 5 all the time.
Yeah, Brad Sweet's a robot. That's besides the point.
Nobody,
right?
Besides the point, robot. But I don't know. If I'm looking at it, like, I can't give him an A when he just, I don't know.
11 wins, double-digit wins, man.
Yeah,
that automatically put me, for me, that
animal.
put him in the A category. Plus, I did, the only thing that kept me back from giving an A+ was the lulls, but he won so many big races. performed on a high level, 50 top 10s. I mean, that's and when we're not talking 50 top 10s here in PA. We're talking
he's on
out on the road
right.
against the best competition. That's
again,
big.
I
So
think my metric changes because now we're not posse guys. We're not
right.
We're talking a
That's
national
fair.
guy, and it's still a hell of a run. And honestly, that Tusky 50, big deal, but we know that race sucked. How forgettable this year was. like I honestly didn't care about the other races. So it's just me personally looking at what he did last year, going into this year, I expected him to be more of a contender. So it's more of an expectation based B more so than a.
It was his first year on the national series.
This guy's been traveling
Doesn't
everywhere,
matter.
not on a tour. I get it.
I mean, because he can take off weeks if things aren't going well. You can take
right.
off. He can't do that now.
So I think
you have Jeremy Elliott, and you have a bunch of viewers turning on
It's
you,
fine.
Chris.
Rico's a fan favorite. That's fine.
when you guys,
I don't have any favorites.
I said fan favorite. I know Jeremy Elliott has the facts, but I'm not going to fight Jeremy Elliott here. I'm going to lose
Well,
every
you
time.
can. It's okay.
I'll lose, though.
Let's
I'm not
talk-
doing that.
let's talk about facts. You talk about laws. He got a win in March at 81 Speedway.
Yep.
He didn't win again until the middle of May at Utica Rome. That's the law, right? Because I think everybody thought by May, okay, and then he won again June 8th. That's 3 wins by June. He ended with 11.
Yeah.
It's just quiet start was there, and then it was the Dean Niddle Memorial, the night before the Kings Royal, the Don Martin Silver Cup, the Capitani Cup. That's 3 or 4 wins in a matter of 6 races. So like the law, maybe a little quieter start to the season, but so did Brad, so did Brent.
Sure.
I mean, they didn't light the world on fire to start the season.
Wait till you see their grades.
But I'm just saying, but even your boy Brad, right? Oh, he's an alien. He didn't really, we were all like, wow, did he fall off? Well, we got through what, May? He won a race, I think, or something, wasn't it?
All
Like,
right, well, can't
so,
wait till we get there.
and listen, I'm sure he's going to cry in his cereal over his $569,000 in year B. So, hater. Let's go.
Overall, we're splitting hairs here. Phenomenal season for Rico.
Facts.
Let's go to Jacob Allen. This is the guy who ran the most races out of anybody this year. 89 races in 2024 ran. He ran high limit and then some. 4 wins, 13 top 5s, 32 top 10s. Jay-Z went with a B-. I went with a C+. Chris also went with a B-. And the viewers... this one, no, this one stayed the same. 19% went with also a C+. 16% with a B+. Jeremy Elliott, what would you give Jacob Allen?
Yeah, I like the B- there. I mean, he had 4 wins. Jacob came out pretty strong to start the year. And then, of course, again, had that lull. We're going to talk about that a lot. And, when he came back here, he was usually pretty good. Not so much at BAPS on Saturday, but, C+, B-. I think you guys are really pretty close there. I mean, the difference between C+ and B- is, 1 point. So, but no, I think that's fair. 4 wins for Jacob. I think he would even say he had a pretty good year with that many wins.
Yeah, I think it was a good. Go ahead, JC.
Well, I'm just going to take this one real quick because I think this one is an expectations thing for me. He's on his own. He split off, going to do his own thing. I think that was big for him. I don't know. I don't know him that well. If I said hi to him in the pits, he'd say hi and I'd move on. I'm not really close, but I think him going and doing his own thing, running 89 races a year after he said, we've been racing too much and I'm tired and I want to break. 89 races. I think this split and going his own direction a little bit was really good for him. I think mentally, I think he's in a really good place. He started his family, and I think, $200,000 in winnings. I think Jacob is he's a positive guy and look at things. And I think the arrow is pointing up for Jacob. We'll see, but I like some of the things I saw this year. Still raced against some of the best, right? High limit. I know 12th is probably not what he was looking for, but I think there were flashes of it. I think he would like to have a little more consistency, certainly more top 5s. But all things considered, we are better as a sport with Jacob Allen in it, and I'm glad he's around.
Same thing. Everything he said, just I think Jacob found a way to make this fun again for himself, and that's really what's important, I think. Yeah. And he goes out and wins races wherever. Like he comes to BAPS and wins a race. Like He's a local favorite. Everyone here is gonna love him. So
The only thing that kept me away from a B was just like his top 5 and top 10 percentage. Out of the amount of races he ran, he just wasn't like not even a factor half the time. So that was the only reason I knocked him back a grade. But great dude, looks like he's on an upward trajectory himself, and is in a good place. Next driver, Spencer Bayston. 79 races, 0 wins, 15 top 5s, 35 top 10s, 8th in high limit points. Jay-Z, Chris, and the audience actually, this one changed. This one went 24% with a B, and then 19% with a C. I went with the D. Jeremy Elliott, what do you say about Spencer Bayston's season?
D plus to C minus. I expected more this year with high limit. What surprised me is they didn't time as well as I thought they would. CJB, I think they struggle with tires. I think that's been a big thing for this team. I've talked to Barry Jackson a lot, well, a decent amount over the last 3 months. And this used to be an automatic top 5 qualifying car. They struggle with that now. So I think that's been the major issue for them. And I'm surprised that I would have projected them to have 2 wins this year. They didn't. So I'm going with C minus D plus.
Yeah, I just
actually had a C minus on my paper, but I typed in C to Jimmy, so I'm a C minus here for all the same things. I had higher expectations, even though I'm not I want to be nice. I didn't have the bar very high, but I had higher than this. That's all I'll say.
I agree. And I'm kind of curious as to the people who voted a B. Like, what did you see out of this team to make you think that he even had us? Like, I get an 8th. Okay, he had 35 top 10s, but I mean, he had a couple decent nights, but I'm not really sure. I had to give him a D. I had higher expectations than this. Maybe a win or 2 for him at least going into this season.
Yep.
I have higher expectations for him next year.
Same.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm really surprised that at the end of the year they didn't run better in the 14. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. He has a lot of talent there. I'm not giving him a D on talent. I just think it was a poor season.
You watch Spencer Bayston at the bull rings and the small tracks.
Mm-hmm.
He shows up. He's there. It fits him. Whatever. So I expect he gets wins next year in that 14 and on that schedule with some short tracks. I expect that there's wins in there for sure because I think he's obviously talented enough. Right combination, things get rolling. I expect an improved year for that driver.
Next driver from higher limit, Tyler Courtney. Another good season for him. 74 races, 12 wins, 36 top 10s, 36 top 5s, 52 top 10s, second in high limit points. He also tied for the midweek money series championship and he actually won something that's not listed in these stats is his 360 Knoxville Nationals championship, which is nothing to snuff at because there's a lot of good competition there. Jay-Z went with an A, so did myself, and 33% of the viewers. Chris went with an A minus. Jeremy Elliott, Tyler Courtney season.
A. Double-digit wins, stepping up from an all-star Circuit of Champions schedule to a high-limit schedule. He beat the Outlaws. At Volusia, you can make the argument he was probably one of the top 2-3 fastest cars all weekend.
Yeah.
Down at Volusia to start the season. So Tyler Courtney has, in a very short time, now granted, before he was in a non-wing car, he ran wing cars. But since he's made that jump, it hasn't taken him long to become a top 6, 7, 8 driver in the country, in the sport.
Yeah.
So an A.
Yeah. The stats speak numbers or speak volumes here. And just for him, he was really the closest competition to Brad Sweet, and Brad Sweet's best driver, one of the best drivers in the sport for the past decade. So, I mean, that's nothing to snuff at. So, Jay-Z, any comments on him?
This was almost a year of runs. This is a really good season altogether, right? But it was almost like a year of runs. He picks up 3 wins by the end of February. And then he gets 3 wins in 4 wins in 5 races in the middle end of June. And then there's a win in August. There's 1 win in September and 1 last win at the World Finals. It was a little quiet and may have lost in the high limit points championship from that June time on. But we were in the middle of June there, and you look at that run he had, it was like, holy shit, this guy, nobody's stopping this guy. Now, I'm not saying the end of the year was a problem, but 15th, 11th, 10th. What is this? Williams Grove National Prelim didn't make that one, right? So there's the 24th at the Tusky, 17th the night before, 20th, 19th, 17th. This is all post-June run. So there's a few of those in there that, again, it's still an A. This is not a bad season, but like that close, right, to that A plus. And I think last year we gave him an A plus. I think I did because like it's hard not to. But great season. Yes, top 7, maybe pushing toward the top 5 of best sprint car drivers in the land. That's how good I think he is and potential for this.
I agree. Yeah, Michael Coppa makes a great point here. Him and Brad really pushed each other every race all season long, and just that's probably what lost him the title, was just kind of his lull there, through the big races there in August and October and September.
West Coast swing killed him.
West Coast swing too.
It was
as well.
terrible.
Yeah,
it was awful.
Which is kind of surprising, but yeah. So Tyler Courtney, good season.
I'm down to an A minus.
Knock him down.
I talked him out of his A.
Next, A, but A minus.
Next driver, Corey Day. 73 races. Could have 10 wins, 25 top 5s, 44 top 10s. He was 5th in high limit points and was the Gold Cup champion. That was one of his big markers on his season. Jay-Z went with an A. I went with an A minus. Chris also went with an A, and with 28% of the vote, A plus from the viewers. Jeremy Elliott, Corey Day.
Well, I got to give him an A with a little bit of a caveat. He's got to get better when there's no cushion. He just does. But now we don't know what's going to happen in the future here. But yeah, definitely an A. He ran a series for the first time, meaning a national series, and look what he did. Now, he didn't earn a charter, though. And that's because some nights, Lernerville, he went airborne.
Yeah.
I don't think that should have happened. He was the fastest car. So I give him an A because obviously all the talent, the 10 wins. I think he's 3rd in money, 4th in money, something like that. So yeah, obviously an A. Concerned though, again, a little bit. We need a little more if he does come back to sprint cars. We need to see a little more consistency. He should have earned a charter with 10 wins.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I'll give him an A. He's young. He'll learn. It'll get better. So,
yeah, he probably gets the charter if he didn't have 3 or 4 blown right rears from banging off the wall, right? Like you said, there is that stuff, and that's the youth in him, and he's the closest thing to a Kyle Larson I've seen lately. As far as even Sheldon, I don't think resembles Kyle Larson at any point. I think Kyle Larson is really good manipulating the car, and when there is or isn't a cushion, but even when there is, he made speed in it when other people were up there too, but he's faster than them. And I just his car control, but that youth, right? That youth showed up and that consistency. And I don't know if I expect him to race for compete for a high limit title this year as like a Brad Sweet level. I don't think that's
Right,
there, but
no.
the trajectory was there to get there. But hell, this was one of the most entertaining guys I've watched all damn season. That doesn't necessarily earn you an A, but when he did it and did it right, who was competing with him. Like there were nights where he was head and shoulders better than the entire field by a lot.
Don't
Against
forget his
Brent.
Knoxville Nationals performance too.
Yes.
Right. So, like this picture is one of my favorite pictures I took all season. It's not that crazy, but it's fucking wild. Like this kid, what he can do with that car and really not have that fear and go, I'm going to make this work, and did more often than he didn't, clearly with 10 wins, 44 top 10s. Just a great season, a great talent, and hope we see him around in the future. That's all
Yeah,
I can
really.
say.
I was between a B+ and an A-. I gave him an A- because of the 10 wins, and he was so fast. But man, he really left a lot of meat on the bone. I felt like there's nights where he could have really those 10 wins could have been. It could have been 20. I mean, every time he rolled in the Port Royal, he was so fast, and seems like he would. I mean, some of it was out of his hands, but man, he's a guy that, like, just a place like Port Royal, he should probably be lapping the field. He's just that fast. He has a lot of talent. Gonna be interesting to see what happens with him here in the future. But I had to knock him down just one peg just because he left a little bit of meat on the bone. But not a bad season at all from Corey Day. Next driver, Cory Eliason, 80 races, 1 win, which was at BAPS, not even a sanctioned race. 11 top 5s, 29 top 10s. Jay-Z, Chris, and the viewers. Actually, it's a tie between C+ and C- with 15% each for the viewers, and I also went with the C-. 10th on high limit points. Jeremy Elliott, what'd you make of Cory Eliason's season?
C-. I expected a little better. I like Cory as a driver. I hope he lands on his feet for next year. I just think there were a lot of moving parts with that team. Had a crew, and Jim Shuttlesworth is a good crew chief, but it was his first time on the road as well. I think that and then you had that crew chief change during the year, which never helps, and they went to a flop car. Just a lot of moving parts. And I think that hurts performance. I mean, obviously, especially when you're on a national series. So he came in here and ran well.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, but
that was like the first week him and Jim were together too. Like with the first week or two, one of the first races that they ran together, they won at BAPS.
Yeah. So I give him a C-. Obviously, I think he would agree with that as well.
Yeah, I thought it was a bad season for him. I expected more. That's why I gave him a C-. Any other comments on Cory Eliason?
I'm not as high as Jeremy on this guy. I think he met my expectations with a C because I feel like that's just this guy. It shows moments and then just There's moments, but for a guy who's been in a wing car this long, I maybe it's not been as long as I thought, but he just screams C to me all the time. Like moments of flashes of it, and then where is it at? Consistency. Car after car after car after car. I just feel like I don't know. Maybe I'm missing it. I don't know. Maybe it's not been as many cars as I thought.
I think that's fair. Next driver on the list, Kasey Kahne, 71 races, 0 wins, 2 top 5s, 11 top 10s, 14th at high limit points. Nothing really to write home about, but I guess expectations here are a big reason for maybe some of these grades. Jay-Z went with a C, Chris went with the C-. I went with the D, and the viewers went with 22% went with the C. Jeremy Elliott, what do you think about Kasey Kahne?
Yeah, I think again it comes down to expectations and a lot of crew problems throughout the year. A lot of moving parts there. So I'd say C-, D+, but watch out next year. He has Eric Prutzman now, and they look really good down at Charlotte. So keep an eye on Kasey Kahne next year. He hasn't decided, I guess, fully what he's going to do, but I think wherever he runs, it'll be better than it was this year.
I want to believe Jeremy Elliott, but he was a Cup rookie 20 years ago. Father Time never loses.
I don't think he's that old though. I mean, he's not up that old.
I don't know what Cup has anything to do with.
I meant more of the age. Most of the age is he's getting up there. His best days are behind him. I hope he gets an outlaw win.
Yeah, I mean,
he can still drive a sprint car. We know this. I don't know. We see it everywhere. We can't expect Kasey Kahne to go out and run top 5 night in, night out. I don't see that.
Well, no, I don't think he's going to do that, but I think he is going to be a lot better next year than he was this year.
Yeah.
And he ended up with 2 top 5s, October 9th, November 8th at the World Finals. 2 top 5s in the year. One was at Lucas Oil, one was down in Charlotte. I've seen flashes of speed, but again, it's just my struggle here is it's your team. You run 71 races and you didn't have enough team to get comfortable or gain speed through this whole year. You do have all the resources you could want or get. I'm missing something as far as you're the owner of the damn team and your other cars out here doing that. And yeah, it matters for you, but why couldn't we solve the team thing all year if there was team problems? And we waited till now. And I know he has the freedom to do whatever the hell he wants. That's fine, but you're putting the car out there for 71 races with your own name on the car. Not cheap. Results matter. I don't know. I hope better. I think he still draws a crowd. I think there's a lot of fans out there that want to see him do well.
Yeah.
There's flashes of it, but yeah, I want more. My bar's higher than this.
I went with the D. I'm not expecting a ton out of Casey Kane, but part of the reason for the D was just looking at the stats. I mean, those percentages are pretty bad, which is fair. And then this is that awful paint scheme, man. That was awful. It was. I mean, Jesus. I don't know what that is. I had to knock a point off of that.
Field.
Right.
That's fair.
And I think that to Jay-Z's point, the dude does run the team that just won the high limit championship. But I think putting your resources in your guy that's actually doing it. I think Casey Kane's got a passion for it, and I think he would love to win some of these races. But I don't think it's an end game for him at this point in his life.
So before we move on, Jeremy, I see, Jeremy, what do we not know that you know on how much control he has over getting his team centered to make it better?
Well, I mean, you can't. Yeah, I mean, he has all the control. But let me ask you guys something. How many poor owners are there in the pit area?
All of them?
None. None.
You asked them. Quality. You meant.
Okay, this is not a resource game. Caneric used to spend the most money out of anybody in the pit area. Did they win an outlaw title? No. It's not always about the money. I know everybody wants to make it that way, but it's not. It's situational. Again, he had a lot of moving parts with crew. I'm not making excuses for him. He didn't perform well. He knows that. But I think my reasoning for what I see coming up, Eric Prutzman is really good. He is a first ballot Hall of Fame crew chief. You don't get many of those. Here's something to think about. Ricky Warner didn't make it on the first ballot, which is a travesty, but he didn't, which again, travesty. But Eric Prutzman is a first ballot Hall of Fame crew chief. I saw the speed at World Finals that I've been looking for with Casey Kane. Now, granted, he's taken some hard ones too. I mean, the one at Volusia.
Evolution was
wild. I can't believe he came back. But I don't know. He's either going to run high limit or he's going to run a pick and choose schedule. He's not going to run outlaws. Definitely not gonna run outlaws. Yeah, that would be a kick.
Wouldn't that be something?
I actually should have probably given him maybe because I didn't expect him going into the season to even finish the season. I mean, he's declared for a full season with for the past couple of years and never even got halfway, and he did make it through this entire season. So I should probably give him a little bit of credit for that. That's not easy to do.
Yeah, but I don't think you get points for paying money to get in.
Right. No, I get that, but I'm just happy to see him actually run a full season. So that's good. So I maybe with some of the right people like you're saying around him,
it'll be better.
Yeah, it'll be better.
It'll be better next year.
All right, let's go to the next driver, Brent Marks. 2024 stats look like this: 79 races, 6 wins, 29 top 5s, 54 top 10s, 4th in high limit points, 3 wins down in the state of Texas. Jay-Z went with a B-. Myself, Chris, and 21%. Oh, this is another one that went down. 21% actually went with an A-, and 19% went with the B. So A- here from the viewers. Jeremy Elliott, what'd you think of Brent Marks' season?
I'd say a B's fair. Got a charter. So the 6 wins didn't quite. I don't think he was as good as he was last year or the year before. Obviously, with speed, just overall speed. Running a national series again is something he hasn't done for a while. So, that takes a toll. I don't know. They had the injury to Fudd. Obviously, did not help.
No, it did not.
So, I think B's fair here. again, I expect Brent Marks to run high limit again next year, because I don't understand why you'd get a charter, beat your head against the wall to get the charter, and then lose the charter by not going back out.
Yeah.
And you lose the charter if you don't go back out. So Marks will be okay. And I give him a B for the year. I mean, it could have been a lot worse. And they struggled with some things. So
Jay-Z, you went with a B minus.
Yeah, listen, I have high expectations, right? I'm a fan and watched his trajectory and go back on tour. Never been more prepared than he was this year to do it. Equipment, team, preparation. And this was his whole plan when he went back to the 19 was to build toward this, to go back on the tour. He wants to race against the best. He wants to be out on the road. He's said that many times, and all the wins here, I want to race against the best of the best. And I like these wins, but the outlaw wins meant a lot, right? And he'll never go back and regret racing that open schedule he did a few years ago and won all that money. But this is what he wants to do. And I also have a feeling in comments and interviews and chatting with him, I think he goes back out on tour, and I think that they'll be prepared for that. And I think he really is encouraged by what Brad and Kyle are doing on the high limit. And they're listening to the drivers, and a lot of the changes that you're seeing are from drivers' interaction with them throughout last season. I think he's encouraged by what he sees there. And, I really made a case a month ago for him not. Heath has a new little one. Brent has a new little one, and that travel is a lot, right? It's a lot for the team and stressful. And then the Fudd's injury. So I expected more from Brent, and that West Coast swing was really tough. And some of these tracks he went to were really tough. I think he struggled with the tire this year. I think the Wicker Bill is not in his favor for the feel he was looking for at times, and just that overall speed wasn't there night in and night out. And the West Coast swing was as bad for him as it was for Tyler Courtney. And Eldora wasn't quite as successful as he's been in the past. And Knoxville didn't go, as great as he wanted to do. So good time trialer, fix that. Great time trial still all season for the most part, but went backwards in races this year, which is uncommon.
Yeah.
So for me, a little more critical because my bar is very, very high for Brent. I think he's one of the top drivers in the entire country. So for me, I think 6 wins is a letdown in 80 races. Good, decent income, but I would say even if you talk to Brent, self-grading, he's in his ballpark. He's in the B to a B minus.
Yeah, I don't have anything different to say there. I thought it was a solid season. Good one on the road. Yeah.
That West Coast swing, Jay-Z took exactly what I was going to say. The West Coast swing kind of did him in like Tyler Courtney.
But yeah, if he fought back, it's still got the charter, and it'll be interesting to see what he does next year. Next driver, James McFadden. Sad to see him go from being here in the States full time. He's a real talent, and he was pretty good this year. 67 races, 4 wins, 23 top 5s, 45 top 10s. He got the World of Outlaw win at BAPS and ended up finishing 7th in high limit points. Jay-Z and myself went with a B. Chris went with a B+, and 19% of the viewers went with an A. Jeremy Elliott, James McFadden.
I'm going to give him a B+. There's 2 wins he should have had if he would have got ballparked.
Mm-hmm.
I like James a lot. I think he's an underrated driver. Unfortunately, he's gone down. That car, from everything I'm told, will not be back out. So high limit will lose that car unless something changes here in the off season. Plus, I don't know who you get to drive it.
Yeah.
But I give him a B+. I like James a lot. I think he's a welcome addition to National Series racing, and I think he'll be missed.
Yeah, I agree.
I can't say anything better than that. We were better in the States for having him here. Sprint car racing is better for having him at all. Great personality, great for the sport. Pretty good year, all things around. And it's interesting, Jeremy, you mentioned that car may not be back, but because I think initially Toyota was like, we want both cars out there, and weird that is now maybe not. So I don't like it, but they think they got a good thing with Buddy, so can't hate on that either.
Oh, I can't. I hope we have him coming up.
Yeah, we do.
We do.
Good.
Yeah. Chris, any other?
No, that's spot on.
Yeah.
Me, I was down on James McFadden. Not down, but he was always a mid-pack guy, and this year he kind of showed up.
Yeah. No, I'm a McFadden fan. one of the PA Aussies that were through here. You know, he was the PA Aussie. You know what I mean? So I always have a spot in my heart for him, and you know, I know he's gonna come over and still run a little bit next season. I would hope, but not full time. And hopefully we see him around here next year. And I think he'll be competitive in whatever he does come over in. Next driver, Justin Peck. Tough season for him. 75 races, 1 win. 25 or 24 top 5s, 44 top 10s, finished 6th in high limit points. His win was at the Four Crown at Eldora. We talked to him about that when we did our pre-show at National Open Chili Cook-Off. He took us a couple minutes to talk to us about that, and that you know, just kind of how that felt good. Jay-Z went with the C. I went with the C plus. Chris went with the C minus, and 26% of the viewers went with a B. Jeremy Elliott, what'd you make of Justin Peck's season?
Like his talent, personable guy. I just a lot of bad luck. What a black cat following that trailer around.
For sure.
So I have to give him a C minus, just because I expected so much more. He's still contended for a charter spot, and I think he looked really good in Charlotte. You know, a couple podiums and an 11th place run. But you know, sometimes, and I always say this, it's like Jeff Fisher and the Tennessee Titans. Sometimes you have a good coach, good team, but it wears out its welcome. It's time to part ways. It just runs its course. Marriage is like that sometimes. So, so Justin Peck and Buick Motorsports, I look at it that way. It just didn't go well this year, but I think both teams will be okay moving forward. So I give them a C minus.
Yeah. The one win, I think I gave him a plus just because of that upward trajectory that we're kind of seeing. Those couple races that we saw him in that 26 car makes me hopeful for him next year. And I think he had more speed than what his stats showed. Just didn't get the results. Look good though. Any other comments on Justin Peck?
I like that water treatment by design logo on the car. Everything else Jeremy Elliott said was spot on though. I agree.
Do you work there?
No,
I know a guy.
We know a couple. Our buddies.
Okay.
Next one, this might be, I mean, this is pretty almost unanimous except for Chris. And we'll see what Jeremy has to say here. Brad Sweet, 69 races, 11 wins, 41 top 5s, 56 top 10s, your high limit points championship. Myself, Jay-Z, and the viewers, 30% of the viewers went with an A plus. Chris went with an A minus. Jeremy Elliott, what'd you say about Brad Sweet's season?
You don't get an A plus when you go 38 races without winning.
Okay, that's
you
fair.
Can't. Give him
the argument I was taking, but I like it.
I mean, that if I would have laid that one in front of you with odds at the beginning of the year, nobody would have taken him to go that long. Ever. Yeah. So this was such an expected championship. So that's what's difficult here. Look, Brad's consistent. Look at the numbers, obviously. You give him an A simply because he did what he's supposed to do. And sometimes that's harder than, it's harder to stay at the top than it is to climb to the top. So I'll give him the A, but there's no way I can go any higher than that because 38 races without a win. And by the way, if you would have told me it was going to end at Port Royal, I would have never believed that either.
You're not wrong on that.
Yeah. I mean, I was stunned. But, I mean, look, Brad, and I think we got to take into account, in full disclosure, he was dealing with more off the track this year than maybe just driving the car. Obviously, high limit and stuff. So that gets some consideration, but you still got to give the guy an A.
Yeah, I thought it was a fantastic season from him, and I think I put him in that plus range just because of what he did do with the high limit series, running that, and then going out winning the championship, and just still keeping that consistency that we saw all along with the World of Outlaws. Just he didn't really miss a beat. Yeah, he had a little bit of a stretch, but he kind of did that with the Outlaws too, where he just kind of would kill you with top 10s and top 5s, and then all of a sudden he would rip off like 5 wins in 3 weeks. And that's just kind of what Brad Sweet is. He once he hits it. So he's kind of the same way here on High Limit. Nothing really changed, and he's still one of the best top 3 drivers in the country.
So I don't mind telling you guys when you're wrong, and Jeremy Elliott, you're wrong.
No, he
won-
really did go 38 races without winning.
Yeah, that is a
Well,
fact.
last year he ran 79 races and only won 13. So at some point that season, if they weren't in a row or not, he still didn't win that other many races. So I don't give a shit if
38
they were in
races.
a row. He won 13 races in 79, which means he did not win 66 races. Do I
Yeah,
give a
but-
shit when they were or how many in a row there were?
Yes.
Yes, this is the point he's making.
Yeah.
He ran 10 less races and had 13 less top 10s. He had 10 less races this year and only had 7 less top 5s. He won an Outlaw Championship last year with 2 more wins. He won a High Limit Championship this year, running less races and only 2 less wins. He won $463,000 last year. He won $459,000 this year. If last year's an A+, how could this year not be an A+?
I don't think last year was an A+.
You win an Outlaw Championship and you're not an
Listen.
A+.
Woody won the Outlaw title this year.
I don't know. I don't compare
I
that.
don't think he does.
No.
I don't know. He didn't run it.
No.
Oh, we doing Tyler Koenig would've? Or
No.
Oh,
They ran 17 times against each other, and he was 200 points back.
I don't care.
I
No,
go
that's
A-. He missed
factual.
the Kings Royal. I know it's not a points race, but
He
still.
missed the
That's
Kings
true.
Royal.
That's
How can
a
you
good
give
point.
He ran 17th at the Knoxville Nationals, having to go through the B main, which is wild for Brad Sweet.
Sure.
And when they were face to face, Brad at an Outlaw show, not a factor.
A+ is like, it's not the Hall of Very Good. Okay, A+ should be great season. There is no way he had a great season. You cannot go 38 straight races if you're Brad Sweet. Now, a couple years ago, he went 35 because I looked it up when I was doing that streak stuff. But 38 races, yeah, it matters. 38 races in a row. I mean, let's put it this way. Would you have bet on that?
No, absolutely not.
Missing the Kings Royal. Would you bet on that?
And missing the Kings Royal.
The Kings Royal, I'll give you guys that. That's
and
for
in
sure.
Knoxville, he finished 17th after going through the B, which again, through the B's, whatever, but he didn't move forward once you got into the show, which is wild.
It's an A. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I said he's a C.
And he wins a championship in his own
sure.
series.
Yeah, we're splitting hairs here. My thing was too is like he only had 13 races. He wasn't in the top 13 races only out of almost 70 that he wasn't in the top 10 against the highest competition in the country. One of those being the Kings Royal. Yes, it's a national touring series. Yes, and some of this is against the World of Outlaws. Some of this is the big series. Like this isn't just high limit stats here. This is
How
his
many
entire
Outlaw
season.
shows did he run that were outside of Kings Royal, Knoxville, National Open?
He ran Volusia.
He did run Volusia.
He ran Jacksonville, I believe.
Yeah,
and at Volusia, he finished first, 15th, third. Yeah.
No,
that was a long time ago.
KKR is traditionally really, really good at Volusia.
Mm-hmm.
In that 38 race stretch where he didn't win, he had 11 podiums in that 38 race.
So that's even worse.
He's racing a national tour all-star series at that point.
So you're telling me 27 of those he didn't even finish on the podium?
There were some 4th and 5th in there. There's a 10th. Well, the Kings Royal's in there. That's that stretch. That's that stretch, though. That's that part of that stretch. And then Port Royal.
Pretty big stretch of important races.
Yeah, he won 2 less races than last year. Pretty wild.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah,
and
fair
10
enough.
less,
So,
and 10 less entries.
Really good season for Brad Sweet. Did what he needed to do. Got high limit off the ground too, while also simultaneously
he was
winning.
Twice at Knoxville, so fucking B+ for me now.
Okay, let's not get crazy.
Yeah. All right, next couple here we'll just hit real quick. Tanner Thorson, 56 races, 1 win, 7 top 5s, 18 top 10s. His 1 win was a Gold Cup preliminary race, 13th at high limit points. First year in a full time in a sprint car going out on a tour. Myself, Chris, and Jay-Z all gave a C10, and the bands also agreed that actually bumped up from 24% to a C. Jeremy Elliott.
I'm going to go against everything that I've said so far. I'm going to give him a B because he finished the series. If you would have picked a car, if you would have picked a car that was going to
drop off by June,
one of 3 cars that was going to drop off, he would have been one of them.
I
Tom
agree.
Morrell did There's a few others I thought, and they didn't. But credit to Tanner. I talked to him at Louisville. He had some good runs this year. I mean, obviously with the Gold Cup prelim, I don't think many people had him winning a high limit race on their bingo card. So, I mean, and he's coming back next year from everything he told me. So
that's good.
I mean, I'm going to give him a B. I thought it was new team, new owner. Everything was new. They put it together like a month. It seemed like a month before the season started.
Wild.
And I got to give him a B just for finishing.
That's fair. No, that's fair. Participation
I can agree with that.
Not like a thing we do, but you'll get the participation B. I like it. I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
You made it all the way through. Listen, there were stretches of flashes of speed, right? It was like, oh shit. Oh, okay. And passing cars and up front and really like being aggressive. And then there were moments where it's like, I think our limited resources based on how fast we put this together showed, right? Like we all kind of like saw some of that, which I think the arrow is pointing up. I'm excited to see. I like Tanner. I like Tanner a lot.
Yeah, same.
Yep.
Next driver, Chris Windham. Tough season in terms of stats. 69 races, 0 wins, 7 top 5s, 17 top 10s, 15th in high limit points. Myself, Chris, and Jay-Z all gave him a D. 26% of the audience went with a C. Jeremy Elliott, Chris Windham.
It's a D.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, he's just struggling in that car. I don't know what the future holds for him. I like Chris Windham a lot. He's had some flashes in a wing car. I think last year he had a good run at Wayne County. It was exceptional, and had some other good runs, but they just struggled to get a handle on that program. And again, don't know what the future holds for him, but it was a tough year.
I expect a lot more from this season based on some of the things we saw the year before, for sure. Just didn't pan out. So
I agree. I thought he showed some flashes, especially recently, where he ran. He was in the dash with the Outlaws. I can't remember where that was. That was pretty much towards the end of the season, though. Showed flashes, but he expected more as his second or third season now in that car and wing car, I should say, and kind of expected a little bit more of a step.
Yep.
And last driver for High Limit, Zeb Wise, who was out of that 26 ride. Same deal. I mean, we all went with the D. Viewers, 24% with the C. 70 races, 1 win, which was King of the Wing win at Skagit back in June. 4 top 5s, 26 top 10s. Zeb Wise, Jeremy Elliott, what do you think about his season?
It was tough. I mean, it was not good. And especially after having 11 wins a year ago, World of Outlaws win, it shows how things change season to season. And I don't know if the 26 because there's a habit with the 26s where you start out really good with them and then it tapers off. Happened with Eliason, happened with Zeb. Now I wonder what that means for Peck. Don't know. I don't know what happens there, but not a good year. The D's probably correct. I don't know anybody who didn't expect better from Zeb. I do think Zeb's a good driver. I'd like to see him get a ride for next season.
Yeah. This was the only driver. Sorry, this was the only driver that had at least 1 win that I didn't give higher than a C- because I felt like winning at least put you there. But man, I mean, just the expectations for him, I felt were a lot higher than this, and this is a very disappointing season. Jay-Z?
I'll say I didn't have the bar higher for many drivers than this guy for this year after the year before. The speed at Port Royal last year, oh my God, late last year. Oh, it was unbelievable. Like this guy I think it was quick time at the Tuscarora maybe every night. I was just like, man, this could be the Tyler Courtney type elevation to that level. And I think, man, there wasn't many more people I had higher expectations for in 2024 than this guy. And it sucks. I hate it because I think he's clearly shown the ability to drive a race car at a high level. Something just didn't go well. And the fact that he still doesn't have something committed that people didn't, maybe they are knocking his ring under his phone and I don't know. This is one of the bigger mysteries to me, that a fall from grace, a fall from potential that I just don't understand. Like
Same.
his trajectory to get to that 26 in the year they were putting together in the 26 to this, man, it's tough. So I like Zeb. I think he's one of the most talented guys out there. I think raw talent. Who knows what happened there? But looking forward to his future and see what he can do somewhere.
All right, that'll take care of the high limit, guys, and then we'll just go into the World of Outlaws, and we're going to start right off with the champion, David Gravel. I mean, man, what a season. 70 races, 16 wins, 46 top 5s, 63 top 10s, A-pluses all around. 50, this was the biggest landslide out of our viewership. 53% voted A-plus, as the rest of us did. World of Outlaw point champion, Kings Royal, Summer Nationals winner. Just great season. This is the season that we kind of expected with Brad not being on the Outlaws tour, but he took care of business as he should and had a phenomenal season. Jeremy Elliott, what do you think about David Gravel?
A+. The only thing he didn't do was do well at Knoxville.
Yeah.
For the Nationals. If you're gonna look for one thing he didn't do well, that was it. Otherwise, he did everything well, and obviously the stats showed he's over $1 million with point money and first World of Outlaws championship.
Yeah, well earned. Only 7 races without a top 10. That's wild.
And that's exactly why I want to argue. Jimmy's like, we expected without Brad Sweet there. That performance there, whether Brad Sweet is there or not, I think is still championship worthy.
Yeah, for sure. But you don't know what happens if they're all on the track for all 70 races together. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But I mean, hands down, best driver all season, David Gravel. Any objections there?
The only thing I want to say is no asterisk. I wrote about it. I don't want to see it.
Yeah, I agree. I think kind of what to Chris's point is even if Brad Sweet's on the tour, those stats win it, and you're the best driver. You know what I mean?
Your asterisk and the race that Brad Sweet missed, David Gravel won, so get wrecked. If you want to make it that simple, that's all the asterisk is. It's a simple, dumb argument.
You can only race who's in front of you, and I still don't see anybody saying anything about Donny Schatz's first title when Steve Kinzer wasn't there, and I don't see anybody talking about Bobby Davis Jr.'s 1989 title. Time cures everything. That'll go away if it is there. I just don't believe it is. It was a spectacular season.
Yes.
Sure.
Next driver, Sheldon Haudenschild. 71 races, 8 wins, 29 top 5s, 50 top 10s, 5th in outlaw points. Jay-Z and 23% of the viewers went with a B+. Myself and Chris went with a B. Jeremy Elliott. What do you think about Sheldon's season?
It's the toughest guy to grade.
Yeah, I agree.
It's the toughest guy to grade because he's fast every night. He bumped up his wins, but just things on the track,
Lincoln
costs himself. So I'm going to give him a B- because I love the fact that he bounced back. He got back on J&J's. He was fast every night, climbed back to 5th in the standings after falling pretty far back, but a B-. The DNFs, that's the part that it's really, really, really hard for me to get by because some of them are unnecessary.
100% agree. That's why I kept them back from anything higher.
So would this be? I was off the grid here. Would this be his best season though? Overall,
No, he's had 9 wins. He's had 9 wins.
I mean, I guess he had the DNF, still 5th in points. I don't know. Kind of forgot he was out there at times.
I went B+ here, and I'm going to tell you why. Last year it is a bounce back year, and I think last year was a C or C-, if I recall, because I was very low on last season.
Yeah.
But he adds $150,000 to his bank account. He goes from 3 to 8 wins, adds 10 top 5s, and he adds only 3 top 10s. The rest of those were DNFs. But that jump up from the 19 top 5s to the 29 top 5s, he probably wrecks in most of those last year, right? Like I think he was an improvement, certainly over last year. I think we all know that. But this was a tough grade for me, and I had to write it down and look at it and go, is this B+ worthy? It's $400,000 in winnings. like pretty damn good on against the best of the best of the best. And I don't think it's anybody's wrong with the B minus, B plus. I think it's all in that range. But as low as I was last year, I'm encouraged by what I saw at times this year, more often than last year for sure. So who knows? What 2025? You flip a coin, and which Sheldon are we going to get? Right? And that's the fun of it sometimes, I think, because we all love it when he wins by a half a lap and knocking the wall down and he completes it. We're like, holy shit, Sheldon. And then we're like, dude, my guy, you didn't have to. That might be the world we live in. I don't know.
It's the wild child way, man.
It's an experience every week.
I should have knocked him down another grade for knocking Chase Dietz out of the
no doubt. But you're right. I forgot about it. Okay, it's a D.
But yeah, solid year for Sheldon. Kind of what we expect from him.
Now I'm looking forward to the next one. I'm looking forward to the next one. A little foreshadowing because I don't know what I'm about to hear. So let's do it.
Let's go. This is what you're asking for, Buddy Kofoid. 2024, 74 races, 7 wins, 33 top 5, 56 top 10s, 4th in outlaw points, and he was the High Bank Nationals winner. That was his biggest race of his career. Jay-Z and Chris went with an A. The viewers all went with actually 60% of the audience went somewhere between an A minus, an A plus, and an A. So we're gonna go with an A in the middle here because it was all tied between there, which is pretty wild. So Jeremy Elliott, Buddy Kofoid.
A. Easy A. He had the best World of Outlaws rookie season in history. That's it.
That's
I mean, 7 wins. The previous high was Brad Sweet, 5 as a rookie. And I do believe, and from a standpoint of point standings, he tied Jeff Swindell and Gio Scelzi for the highest finisher by finish in the point standings by a rookie at 4th. Won the High Bank Nationals, which he should have won the year before. Should have won the Tuscarora 50 the year before if wouldn't have had issues. I think he's the next guy. I've told people I've seen the 5 best teenage drivers I've ever seen are Stevie Smith, Kyle Larson, Buddy Kofoid, Corey Day, and Gio Scelzi. And the top 3 are Larson, Kofoid, and Stevie Smith Jr.
That's wild.
So he was my hero growing up, man. I was my guy.
Well, I saw him in 84, 85. So he was exceptional.
I didn't then.
I'm old. But Buddy Kofoid is really, really, really good. And he has good car control. He can be aggressive. I don't know what there's not to like about him at this point. And he showed this year why he is so good. He's going to be even better next year. As long as he seen Dylan Buswell with him, they see the Toyotas seem to be better. He's going to be a contender. He's going to be a handful for years to come.
Yeah, I went with the B. Good season, rookie. It's hard for me to like. It's actually hard for me to wrap my head around him being a rookie. I feel like he's been around for a little bit. But yeah, first full-time season with the Outlaws, fantastic season. But when I compare his stats, him, Gio, Sheldon, kind of all in the same realm there with kind of the similar stats. So I couldn't really go with an A, but I guess, considering that he was a rookie and how good he has looked at times, I couldn't argue against an A, but I went with the B just because of the stats.
I'm A. And I'm an A because it's his rookie season on a tour, right? The Hell Tour, right? Gio last year, I think I gave a B plus to for his rookie season because it was pretty good. Like for a rookie, where he was in points, that's a long tour, that's a long season. He's a young guy. Last year, Gio had 79 races, 2 wins, 20 top 5s, and 53 top 10s as a rookie. That was a pretty good season, all things considered. He showed some speed. He won $275,000 in 2023. Buddy this year earned $441,000 in those statistics. Tremendous, tremendous talent as a rookie on tour where there's plenty of guys who get eaten up no matter their talent level in their rookie years. Doesn't matter what program, how long they've been in it, how much they built their programs, their teams. This was phenomenal. This is an outstanding talent and an outstanding season for his rookie year. Agreed all day.
Well, let's go into the next driver. Runner up in the points, Carson Macedo. 73 races, 12 wins, 52 top fives, 62 top tens. Chris, Jay-Z, the viewers bumped up to an A+ with 32% going to an A+, with 30% going to an A. I also went with an A+. Jeremy Elliott, what do you say about Carson Macedo?
Ooh, I'm waffling between an A and an A+. And the reason is, I mean, his year started out so bad.
So bad. I think everybody was like, what the hell's about to happen here?
That's why I'm at the A.
Yeah, but you got to give points for him overcoming that and putting a season together with double-digit wins. They had a couple crew swaps after that bad deal down at Volusia. Made some part changes. Just a phenomenal stretch run to the season. He won big races, Williams Grove National Open. I believe he won the Roth as well. I got to give him an A+. I know he didn't beat gravel, but everything he overcame, he is championship ready. I saw that this year. I'm not saying he's going to win the championship. I'm saying that team is championship ready. If he beat gravel next year, I wouldn't be like, oh my God, I'm stunned.
Yeah.
You know, because if they start out better at Volusia, that thing's a lot closer. But I mean, just Philip Dietz, Carson, JJR, I'm going to give him an A+.
Yeah, I went with an A+ as well. Just those stats. He had more top fives than David Gravel, but he had some DNFs and just a couple. You know, he was only 80 points out at the end of the season, and maybe some of that was just in the beginning of the season. I'm not really performing as well, but man, he really impressed me this year. And I know he's a talent. I know he's very good. I figured he would be probably one of the biggest contenders for David Gravel going into this season for the Outlaws. I didn't think he was going to be the contender. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't think he was going to be the only guy really to kind of compete with them. I mean, if you would have showed me these stats and say that these were David Gravels, I would believe it. So just a phenomenal season by Carson, and especially the last half, National Open winner, and just a couple coulda, shoulda, woulda races, and you might be talking about him being a points champion.
It's crazy to think that wasn't that long ago, like last year before, where he was like the third guy. It was Sweet Gravel, Carson Macedo, kind of just out there. And then going this year, I think Logan Schuchart was the third piece of that puzzle, who I know we'll get to him, but like Carson, definitely that back half showed a lot, back half of that season, to what could be next year and moving forward. And David Gravel's not going to walk away with this championship every year until he leaves the tour.
Yeah.
I think that's confirmed now.
Any other notes on Carson Macedo?
Yeah, he doesn't get an A+ for me because he didn't win the title. That's it. Otherwise, it's
that's
an
really
A+.
it. Yeah.
That's also
that's fair.
If he wins the title, he's an A+, and Gravel's an A. Like, it's an A+ season, guys. I'm not being an idiot by not giving it to him, but second in points is second in points.
Yeah, I don't disagree on that.
I
just think for me, those stats, that's good enough to win a title most years, I would say. You know what I mean? It's wild. Next driver, Giovanni Scelzi. His 2024 stats: 73 races, 5 wins, 27 top fives, 59 top tens. He had a Knoxville Nationals preliminary win and 6th in Outlaw points. Jay-Z gave him a B, while myself, Chris, and the audience, 20% of the audience, gave a B.
And now that I saw how orange that car is, it's a C.
Jeremy Elliott, how do you feel about Gio Scelzi's season?
I actually like the car. It's one of the few I like.
Yeah.
A B+. I think Gio, it got overshadowed a little bit by Kofoid catching him there at the end. And I think maybe people probably poo-poo it a little bit. But the 5 wins. He went up in almost every category. I like what they're building there. He has a very young crew chief. So I like a B+ there.
Yeah. I can't disagree on that. I mean, I went with the B just because he was so in line with kind of like I was saying with Buddy and Haudenschild. They were all very similar stat lines. Next driver, we know this one well. Donny Schatz, 71 races, 6 wins, 33 top 5s, 57 top 10s, third in the points, 1 Hard Knocks, 1 Jackson Nationals. Those are some of his big wins from this season. Jay-Z and Chris went with an A-. I went with the B+. And the audience was tied at 19.1% for each B and B-. Jeremy Elliott, what do you think about Donny Schatz?
I got to go with the viewers on this one. It's hard because I've covered Donny through all of his championships, and I've interviewed him probably more than any driver that's in the sport now. But and I find him very charismatic and amusing, and I think he's smart. But just doesn't time as well anymore. Too many nights where just not a factor at all. Like Charlotte was bad. And he's so good down there. So he had more win. He had one more win, and his numbers were up a little bit. And I'm sure, that's a reflect. I just can't. I am not going to lower the bar for Donny Schatz, a 10-time World of Outlaw champion, first ballot Hall of Famer who has over 300 World of Outlaws wins. So a B-. I'll stick with that.
Okay. Why'd you guys give him an A, Chris and Jay-Z?
For every reason Jeremy Elliott just said we were wrong for. We did lower the bar because he did improve this year. He was actually just sneaky Don stuff. Like, even at Charlotte, he passed the most cars this year. Is that what I saw somewhere? Charlotte ordered a whole year. Like, he still could do it, and he was still to the point I was cheering for him, which is crazy. It's how you know he's crossed that era, kind of like Jimmy Johnson did or Jeff Gordon did, where it's like, hey, we don't hate him anymore because he doesn't win all the time. It's like we want to see his greatness now.
Yeah,
right. We're seeing his greatness kind of come through in these weird things where he's just like charging through the field, but he's not winning. He's finishing second, third. I don't know. A-. I think I didn't expect him to finish third in the Outlaw points. I didn't expect him to be a contender as long as he was in the Outlaw Championship chase this year. So A- for me. I think last year he gave him a C because it was like, what the hell? And maybe that was unfair, but I didn't expect him to even be a contender this year. And he was there way longer than I ever thought he would be in contention to win another championship.
Who did you think would be ahead of him in points?
Kofoid, Scelzi, Haudenschild, Schuchart.
I didn't expect any of them to be ahead of him.
Top of my head, Schuchart's probably the one that I thought the most confident in. And he just fell off the wagon. Based off last year, like he was just missing. Felt like it took him forever once he got the 300 win. How emotional that was. Just like it was just so random when he would win versus I guess the Donny I was used to watching growing up. Where who won? Donny Schatz. Just shocking. Kind of like you with the Kenzer stuff. Like, who won? Steve Kenzer. Stunning.
And I just want to A+ here because I think that it was consistent, but to me, it was way more consistent at the top half of that top 5 versus last year. And my bar was lower this year. My bar wasn't a World of Outlaw championship. My bar wasn't 15 wins. My bar was, does Donny Schatz still look like he has the speed to go contend for an Outlaw championship? And I think he did that. He has 9 second-place finishes in there. We're not playing shoulda, woulda, coulda, but 9 second-place finishes is nothing to sneeze at in a World of Outlaw season. Now, for him and where he's been, this is a D, right? Like, if you talk to him, maybe, right? His expectations are to win every race like everybody else. But my bar was lower, and I think he had a really good, well-rounded season and showed more speed than he has in recent long seasons. There were moments in the last couple of years, but I think there was more consistent speed in the top half of the top 5 this year than I've seen, and my bar was lower. My bar was 4th or 5th in points, and I don't know who I'm putting in front of him, Jeremy, to be quite honest, and I did have higher expectations for a couple guys, but based on what I saw recently, I didn't know, I guess, maybe what to expect here, And I thought this was an encouraging season, and my bar's higher for next year. I don't care what age says. I think he has 10 wins left in him in a season. I really do. And I think they could do it.
And I think the craziest part for me was watching Knoxville or Kings Royal, Knoxville Nationals. It would have surprised me to watch him put the left front on the berm and just drive to the win. Like this year, the way he was driving some random times this year would have surprised me to see vintage Donny Schatz, which is different than years before. It's like, nah, not going to happen.
My problem with and look at the Kings Royal that week, that was an A- performance. That was an A performance. The track was racy. He came through, so on and so forth. Problem is, no big wins this year.
No.
$359,000, and that's with point money.
Yeah,
that's short.
Yeah, his kind of big mark of a win was the Jackson Nationals, which I don't even think are a thing now next year. So
they are for IRA.
Okay.
Second at the Brad Doty, second at the Kings Royal, second in the Jackers Joke Pot, second in the Summer Nationals race. And
a second rate grade.
There, you know what I'm saying? Like for me, I thought this was pretty solid, and maybe I'm just a little more optimistic about my expectations and what he did. But man, it's again that shoulda, coulda, woulda, and that doesn't pay your bills. But damn, I thought it was pretty solid.
Yeah, I didn't compete. I didn't expect him to compete for a title necessarily. But I mean, when you go and compare him to the guys that he finished around in points, Gio, Buddy, Sheldon, he had pretty similar stats, and that's why I just went with a B plus. Could have been a B season, but B plus. He surprised me a little bit, but
looks like he's having a little more fun this year. Jeremy, do you get that? Did you get that? That seemed like he was having a little bit more fun than maybe the last year or two with things.
No, I saw him down at Charlotte. He didn't look like he was having fun.
Well, is that a little recency when you're running, taking provisionals and to even get in after?
Donny still has the fire to win. I just think, I don't know if it's the combination they have. They have to do things to the car that are a little different than what his driving style is. And Donny's hinted at that. And look, I think Donny Schatz has, outlaw champion talent. I mean, I don't think he's lost this. I just think it's just, again, situational. I think David's gotten better. I think Carson is, too, look at the guys who finished around him. David's kind of a tweener driver. Carson's a little more aggressive. Buddy's aggressive.
Yeah.
We haven't seen that with the World of Outlaws very much. That we just haven't seen it very much over the last 10, 15 years. And I think the sport's changing with these aggressive drivers. And I think Donny's alluded to that as well. It's just a different time now with how guys are driving. And it's something I think he's not used to a little bit. So I think there's a bunch of factors there, but he's every bit as competitive and every bit as, has a desire to win. He didn't lose any of that.
No doubt.
So, Jeremy, you would probably compare that to kind of like Lance. Same thing. I know, like Lance said to you, like him and Donny Schatz have the same kind of driving style. Would it be the same kind of thing? Like just a combination of everything is kind of taking away what they had over everyone before. Plus, obviously, Father Time and just the driving style stuff just doesn't mesh.
Well, in the Ford, I don't think the Ford meshes with what Donny does compared to a guy like Justin Peck or somebody who mashes the throttle. Donny can feel an inch with his foot. He's so methodical and he thinks through a race and he pedals the car. He could do a lot of different things. The Ford, from what I'm talking to guys, the guys who do well with it mash the throttle.
Yeah.
So that's just not his bag, and I think that's been difficult to overcome for him.
It'll be interesting to see what happens for him in the future next year. All right, 2 more drivers for the Outlaws. This one, Logan Schuchart. 77 races, 4 wins, 27 top 5s, 59 top 10s. 7th in Outlaw points. 2 of his 4 wins were from PA Speed Week. Myself and Jay-Z gave him a B-. Chris gave him a C. and the viewers went with 21% of a B. Logan Schuchart, what'd you see from him, Jeremy Elliott?
I'm going to give him a C. They've struggled. And
Yeah.
I think they've struggled since the 2020 season. I think what people did was when he finished second in points to Brad, they put some unfair expectations on that team. Because got to remember, it was a shortened schedule. He went to a lot of tracks where he's really good at. Eldora, Knoxville, Lucia that year, tracks that he's good at. And I still think, there's some resource stuff there, obviously, I think, and they just struggled. I think they've struggled for three years now. They won the $1 million last year, but if you take that $1 million out of there, you made like $200 and some thousand.
You take that $1 million out of there, you still finish second in points.
What?
Not
Didn't
last
you
year.
finish second in outlaw points?
That was 2020.
2020.
I'm sorry, my bad.
Yeah, 2020. I mean, he wasn't in the top 5 in outlaw points last year. He wasn't this year. And look, I think Logan, it's not that Logan's not a good driver. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they've just struggled. And I think people put a lot of maybe some unfair expectations on him. I'll tell you what, he can win from anywhere at Knoxville. He can win from anywhere at Eldora. I think he can win races at a lot of different tracks. I think he's a very talented driver. I think what they built there is good. I just think some of the expectations are maybe unfair. And I give him a C. They struggled time trialing at times. I talked to him during Speed Week, and it's just tough on the outlaw deal. And again, I don't view Logan. I view Logan like I view Donny. I don't think he's that aggressive, mix it up, dive bombing guys. I think maybe he's more that methodical driver as well. And I think it's just been a transition. I don't think the tires have helped him. I think he has some crew guys coming in and out. And it's all that stuff. You mix that together, and I think it makes it difficult when you're running against David Gravel, Macedo, Schatz, Kofoid, Scelzi, Sheldon. I think that makes it difficult. But I think Logan's really good. It's not an indictment on him or his team. They just struggled of late.
It's almost like a reflection of how overperforming they did in those early years. They were winning those races with him and Jacob on the road when they were, picking up tires from used teams and stuff. They almost overperformed and made these expectations, and now it's like, well, that's probably not fair. That's interesting.
I went with the B- just because of when he came to PA for PA Speed Week. He showed how much, he is leaps and bounds better than anybody here for the most part. You know what I mean? He's very, very good. And so 59 top 10s against the World of Outlaws. He's not competing for wins. It's not the season that we're expecting. We're expecting him maybe to mix it up a little bit more. Maybe some people are. I don't know. I don't know if I was necessarily expecting him to mix it up for a title, but I figured he'd probably get a couple more wins maybe, but and be a little bit more in the mix. But he was consistently there, back half of the top 10. It seemed like every race. So
not that this is going to happen. But not that we want to live in hypotheticals or this will happen, but if he ran a pick and choose schedule and wasn't on tour.
12 wins.
Yeah.
13
Yeah.
wins.
Yep.
Yeah.
I could see that for sure.
Definitely.
I almost look at that and go, is this a team that'd be better that way? Now, obviously financially, if he gets 12 wins and he picks off some PA Speed Week, 12 grand minimums, 10 grand, 20 grand, like he did, and he ran all PA Speed Week, ran Ohio Speed Week. There's some big money. Went out and ran Kings Royal and sort of a Brent Marks a couple years back. Do they financially make out better?
The thing is with the pick and choose, you better win.
Yeah.
If you do not win, you don't get that tow money. You don't get that point money.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. Like Brent, when he did it, he won. People forget he won 220. He won 220 25,000 in 2 nights.
Correct.
Gravel did it this year. So you got to win. No matter what, you've got to win races. Schuchart's a double-digit winner if he's not running World of Outlaws. I have no doubt in my mind.
And he's good at Eldora that he could have that year. That's why I say that, right? Like, because Eldora is a strong suit. Knoxville is a strong
Knoxville,
suit.
right?
And like selfishly, I'd love to see him run around here more. I'm a fan. I like Logan. I like Jacobs. I like those guys.
Yes.
Selfishly, PA guys, I'd love to see it. And I just make that wonder if the financial side of it. Now that obviously that tow money and that money is security. I get it. I do. But man, does the winning outweigh it, right? And you'd have to. But I think he has the ability. I think it's all there. So not that that's going to happen, but we could all just hope and wish and dream someday, I guess. But
it would make Pennsylvania stronger.
Absolutely.
100%.
Oh yeah, we probably have more posse wins. Yeah. And I even think of like the high limit thing. We talked about Brent Marks, Tyler Courtney falling off on the West Coast. If Logan Schuchart was on that tour,
who knows?
Yeah, you never know.
He wins a hell of a lot out in California.
He runs well out there.
Yeah. All right, last World of Outlaw driver, kind of on the same topic, same wavelength, a little bit to a lesser scale. Brock Zierfoss, 75 races, 1 win, which was just past Saturday at BAPS Motor Speedway. 2 top 5s, 18 top 10s, 9th in Outlaw points. Another struggle year for Brock on the road. Jay-Z and Chris went with the D. Actually, 22% of the viewers swept over to an F. With 19% of the viewers went with the C. I went with the C minus just because he did just get that win. A little bit of recency bias there, and I'm a fan. But tough. But Jeremy, what are your views on Brock?
Jimmy time.
Brock's not as bad as what the results showed this year.
I agree.
If I said earlier about Justin Peck having 2 black cats a black cat, he has 2, maybe 3. Every time I turned around, that car was breaking.
Every time. Yep.
So Brock's really difficult because he had D stats. He just did.
Mm-hmm.
He'll tell you that. They struggled. And I think we saw a glimpse this week of what he could be. Jim Shuttlesworth is there. He was down at World Finals with him. He timed better. I think he had a top 10, maybe 2. And then he comes back and wins at BAPS. Big win. Huge win. It was good to see. I think we're going to see better from Brock Zierfoss moving forward. This year, it was tough. I mean, every time you turned around, that car was slowing on the track, or he was getting caught up in somebody else's mess.
Right.
Yep. But I mean, you put yourself in that mess too sometimes. You know what I mean?
You running back there.
Yeah.
But Paducah and all those other, just that stuff happened, and it just kills you. And when you're down with the World of Outlaws, when you're struggling, I've talked to a lot of those guys, and it's so hard to turn it around because you're just going to the next race, repeat, rinse, repeat. And it's so difficult. So I think we'll see better from him in the future.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Let me ask you a question about that real quick. And Jim's helping him out, committed for 2025, traveling 2025. Jim is that works with schedules and humans and people. Do you know any of that confirmed for 2025? Not that, again, maybe there isn't news to be made or we don't know yet. You can fully say I don't know, but I think Brock, and this is 3 years of getting his you-know-what kicked in. Like, bad luck or not, this is year 3 of it. At some point, do you go pause and go back and try again at some down the road, right? It doesn't sound like Brock wants to do that, but would that be better for them?
I think it's yet to be determined.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that.
Yeah. Listen, I think everyone, we can all say it without saying it, right? Without knowing that we thought this last year at this time, the same conversation. Would it be better for him? Would it be better for that team in their future to pause a year? And this
especially
year,
seeing
better with the loss of the performance, right? So we'll see.
I think there's still decisions to be made there.
Yeah.
Enough.
Yeah, and I'm just, obviously I'm with Jeremy there, where I think his stats don't really show. He had some better nights that didn't really pan out and had a lot of mechanical issues. shit, on Saturday, I mean, he pulled off
watched him
during
try to
motor
flip it.
heat, pulled off. He turned one good lap in group time trials, and then broke, and then had a good rest of the night and got the win. And it was good to see him. I think that's a good way to. It seems that happens with Brock the past couple of years, where it's like he has a lull, and then like they'll go down to Charlotte and run real good. I remember he ran second the Brent a couple years ago, like the last race of the season, like would have like these like end of the year, like get some momentum, some moments like, look what we can do. And then you get some expectation or some momentum going to the next year. And then you just, it just doesn't seem to pan out. So it's been tough for him, but I don't think it's as bad as these stats say. And it was just good to see him get a win, and I'll go with the C-.
His law was 74 races, in case you want to.
I get it.
Jay-Z math.
It was actually 197.
I bet just this year.
Yeah, I mean, he had, his last win was July of 2022.
Yeah, it was a tough stretch. So good to get that monkey off the back, and maybe we'll see what happens for him next year.
Shout out to Brock. He definitely drove the shit out of that thing. I know we'll get into this.
Whoa.
Holy
It was awesome. It was fun to watch.
All right, so that's the end of the grades that we gave you guys. There was one that I said I was very remiss for putting on there, and I had to make sure that we all got grades for. This was written in so many times in our write-in section. I felt so dumb for missing him. TJ Stutz, 62 races, 3 wins, 13 top 5s, 23 top 10s, the Morgan Cup victory at Williams Grove, where pretty much everybody was trying to burn the track down because it was such a huge moment for Posse. Jay-Z went with a B. I went with a B+. Chris went with an A+. And the viewers, for the most part, I don't have a percentage here, but out of like the 30 or so people that wrote them in, we're all around a B+ to an A+. So I went with an A-. Jeremy, what do you think about TJ's season?
I'm not going to be a prisoner of the moment, but definitely an A. Probably the biggest upset win in 2-3 years. Also, but he kept winning.
Right?
Yeah, he did.
Times well. He's always been a good time trialer. But when you win for the first time in a few years, and I mean, come on, it was a feel-good story this year. And to beat the Outlaws, he passed David Gravel. People think he's got out front. I mean, he had to repass him. So in the corner, coming out of 3 and 4. So, I can't say anything bad about TJ this year. You have to give him an A and possibly an A+ just because of where he was to where he is this year. And he talked about it a lot on our when I interviewed him, was his health. This is really the first middle of last year, end of last year was the first time he started feeling good after the pancreatic deal he had going on. So, I mean, does he continue? We'll see, but I don't care about track records so much. I know somebody put it, but I do care that he beat the Outlaws and passed David Gravel to do it. And then he kept winning.
Yeah. Yeah, we had him on as right after his win as well, and he kind of said it was kind of the same thing where it was, they're finally just starting to get rolling where like everything's just kind of like they're not having to deal with so much crazy adversity outside of racing. It seemed like is kind of the way he made it sound like. So yeah, fantastic season for him. I gave him B+. He had a lot of speed. I can't take really anything away from him. Probably should be an A, but we'll go with a couple of our other write-ins. Jeremy, we'll go with yours. You had a couple. First one here, Cale Thomas. He had 60 races, 8 wins, 23 top 5s, 35 top 10s, 4 wins at Attica, 2 of them at Fremont. You gave him an A-.
I did. I think it was a great breakout year for Cale. I think this year having that ride, I think showcased what Cale is. I think he's one of the more underrated drivers in the country, and good equipment, consistent ride for a full season, I think showed some glimpses of what Cale is and can be. And I saw it around here briefly. We've seen around the country, he competes well in some of these tracks when the touring series are out there, Eldora, Kokomo, or, some of those Ohio, Indiana type tracks. I'm a Cale Thomas fan. Got to know Cale during COVID a little bit when he was here with the Trone car. And we've had him on the show. I I don't know the backstory of why this deal split. It seemed very amicable, like we're just going to go a different way. I felt like there was something good going here, but the 23 cars seem to have a new driver every other year or every other week or every other month or every other quarter of the year. So not surprising, but a little surprising after this type of season, that I think
Because how much better could you perform,
a
really?
good arrow pointing upward for a guy who, if there was consistency in what he was driving. So I don't know a ton of the backstory with that deal. Jeremy might know more than I do, but a big fan of Cale's, and I think eight wins and what he did this year, I think needed to be a little bit out of the normal here. I know there's other guys around the country that had a lot of wins that I'm not mentioning, but I think this one really stood out to me with the performances he had this year.
Yeah, good job from Cale.
Fair.
Another one of yours was Cody Hartlaub. You gave him a C+. We also had a write-in from Josh Burns, who gave him an A-. 53 races, no wins, 4 top 5s, 14 top 10s in his rookie full season, and 4 10s.
I wrote this in because he ran 53 races, right? I think he could have been on the list of just let's give him a grade. 53 races like TJ. We missed TJ because of the wins, but this guy ran 53 races in 95 and the 39 in his rookie season. And I'm giving him a C+. If you ask Cody, he probably gave himself an F because that's Cody. He's also a very kind of humble guy and expects to win every race he enters. But fourth in speed week points, I want to say, ran the whole tour. Was it fifth? Fourth or fifth in speed week points. Showed flashes in time trials, especially at Lincoln Speedway. A lot of good time trial efforts. Had to put it all together, right? And I expect more for Cody next year, just like he does, and see where his career goes. But I thought Cody needed, as much as we talked about Cody this season and the potential and some of the flashes, he deserved to have his time here tonight.
Yep. And one more from you. Cole Macedo, you gave him a B-. 73 races, 6 wins, 31 top 5s, 31 top 8s. And also we had a viewer, Bayston, give him a B. He wrote him in as well. Cole Macedo.
I think there's a lot of potential here. I didn't follow every race. I didn't watch all 73. But when I did and he was in them, he shows up. He was there. He's competing at a very high level. I think there's a lot of growth to be had for sure. He's a young guy, but he's not afraid of it. I think he's not afraid of the moment either. He's also wrecked a lot of race cars. Probably will wreck more race cars in grand style. But you can see there's something there. So I think, 6 wins. But what mattered to me more, that this is even a write-in for a guy that's not anywhere related to Pennsylvania, is he showed up in those big races against the best. And there was a name that people were like, oh, shit, okay. All right, Cole, we know the name, but who are you, right? So, I don't know. Jeremy follows this stuff nationally a little closer than maybe we do yearly. What are your thoughts about Cole and his future?
I think he's come along. I mean, I think a couple of years ago when he was in the 41, he rubbed some people the wrong way, especially at Charlotte. Wrecked a lot of race cars. I think he's cut a little bit of that out. I think I see improvement. He ran a bunch of different cars this year, and he was able to put it in the top 10, top 5 with high limit, and looked decent against the Outlaws as well. Obviously competed for that NARC title down to the last race with Justin Sanders in California, another underrated driver. So I like what I see from Cole. I like the progress he's made. We'll see how he does with the World of Outlaws next year with the 2C. That's a big jump.
Yeah.
But I definitely like, people forget when Carson Macedo went on the road, he had kind of those same problems. I remember him going into trailers having to apologize to guys. So look what he is now. He's one of the best. He's one of the top 3-4 guys in the sport. So I think Cole Macedo has a good start, and we'll see how he does next year and moving forward.
Agreed. Yeah, next year is going to be challenged at times, but I think you'll see flashes, Geo style flashes of speed, and then you'll have those other moments. So I think it's a long year.
Chris, you had a couple write-ins as well, and we had you had Billy Dietrich. And we had a couple viewers as well. Aubrey G gave him a C+. Brent Shoe said A for effort, F for luck. And Dakota Porter gave him a B-. You gave him a C+. He had 32 races, 0 wins, 1 top 5, and 5 top 10s.
audacious season. I thought they were going to get some wins. Clinton County went quick time and then got flipped. Love Billy Dietrich. I love that whole clan. Knowing what their deal is, right? Weekend racer. Like they're not your touring guys. They're not going to go run a whole speed week. They had the speed. It took them a long time to get there. C plus. Like I don't think Billy's happy to see they've been out injury since, but it's rough.
Yeah. And then you also wrote in Chad Trout. You gave him a B. Christopher Noel, our viewer, also wrote him in as a B plus.
Guy should have had at least one win. Ran a full there. Just impressive all year long, especially at Williams Grove. Just what they were doing, that was sneaky impressive. I didn't want to leave him off the list, and I know Matthew Bird's going to give a shit. That's someone I thought about earlier too, because that's the other guy that would be in the same category for me. Like guys that had strong years for what their program is, right? Like they're not the guys that are going to come run for a track championship. That's not their goal, right? Yeah. Chad Trout, when he's running up front, it's the whole everyone that was in the infield when he was leading. Everyone was happy for him. It's like when he lost, when he ran a field, it's like damn. You love to see that. That's the local racer right there. Right, that's a local team, local racer, prime posse. If he were to beat the Outlaws, that's why TJ Stutz beating the Outlaws was insanity, because he's the same kind of guy. He's not the guy that's going to go tour. It's like that's peak True Blood posse.
And then I had two. I had Bill Baylog. I felt like I missed him on the Outlaw thing. I gave him a C plus. He had 68 races, 0 wins, but 11 top 5s, so 33 top 10s. Thought it was a very good rookie showing from him. I was not expecting him to really have as strong of a season as he did. He had some ups and downs, but really when he said he was going out on the Outlaw Tour, it was like out of left field to me. And then, about halfway through the season, seeing some of his speed, I'm like, well, maybe it really wasn't. He has some speed, he has some talent, we know that, and maybe I could even give him better than a C plus, but I wanted to make sure he got a shout out here, for sure.
Have they announced
diecast. They look cool as hell too.
Sorry, have they announced plans for next year? Does anybody know?
From what I gather, he is going to return. It hasn't been announced yet, but for all the people I talk to, they think he's coming back out. I'd give him a B. I mean, first time touring with the Outlaws. Had to go home a few times for some cars. Another guy who had bad luck, Paducah, was in the running. And obviously when Kofoid and Gravel got dicing, Baylog got caught up in it. And I like what Baylog did this year.
Yeah.
I would say, like you talked about, Brock was faster than the stats. So this guy had better stats than Brock, but was faster than these stats by a lot, in my opinion. And now I think there's still some inconsistencies. Like, there were stretches maybe that they were a little off, but there were so many nights where they're like Baylog up front, and shit would happen. So, like, is he like a 5-win car? Maybe not yet, but was there 15 or 18 top 10s in there probably, or top 5s? Yeah, I think there might have been, right? So, I think there's a lot of potential here for Baylog, and I was concerned when they went on tour about equipment. I really was, and then they tore a whole bunch of shit up and made it. So if they can there, I think the arrow is pointing north. I think
this would be one of the cars that I kind of thought would not be on the tour.
Oh
yeah, in Florida, to be honest.
Yeah. And especially when we started tearing shit up, then we're like, oh man, this.
Yeah,
no way.
And that's what
I've always liked him. Right, he's always.
That's what kept me away from giving him a B, was just kind of how much he tore up and everything. But that's such his life, you know what I mean? But he showed a lot of speed, and he was a lot more impressive than I thought he was going to be honest. And then one more guy I wanted to give a shout out to, Emerson Axsom. I gave him a B. 70 races, 2 wins, 18 top 5s, 30 top 10s, his first full season in a wing sprint car. He was impressive as hell. He was somebody I just always had my eye on whenever he was in a race. It'll be interesting to see what they do next year. But he was super impressive. I had to give him a B.
He's a guy that, like, he ran Lincoln a lot early in the season and got faster and got faster and got faster. And I don't think that he can go back and say, oh, PA and that PA stretch we had made us better. But like seat time. And I think it's starting to show that talent level. And I don't know, has he announced a plan for next year? Anybody know?
He is not announced yet. I think they're mulling a bunch of things over. I was impressed with Emerson from the jump. I mean, once he got past those first few races, his performance at Knoxville again was really good. 6th at the Kings Royal, first time running a wing 410 car there. I almost want to give him an A-.
Yeah.
To come out,
one of his wins were at Knoxville.
Yeah, for him to come out and perform the way he did this year, if he doesn't get Rookie of the Year, then that's criminal.
Yeah, very impressive young man.
Before we get into just a couple more write-ins from the viewers, Jeremy, do you have anybody that's on this list that we maybe left off that you would want to point out?
Well, I know somebody in the comments said about Lucas Wolf.
Yeah.
Way to go, guys.
We did kind of leave him off. I don't know. What were his stats even though? I mean, to be honest, I'm going to look it up. He has
a win.
He does have a win.
Williams Grove. I think he win the night Chad Trout ran out of fuel.
No,
Luke, Lance Dewease did.
Macri did. Or yeah, Lance did.
Lucas Wolf had 68 races, 1 win, 8 top 5s, 28 top 10s. His 1 win came at Williams Grove in May.
I felt he was better this year for some reason, but the stats aren't impressive. I just thought he was a little quicker and they were getting better. I was surprised that when you said he only had 1 win, just because I thought he contended more.
That's an accurate take. Jimmy Elliott spot on.
There's a stretch of races that I just happened to just scroll near, right? The win at Williams Grove, but around that, there's a 7th, a 3rd, 6th, 6th, 2nd, 4th, 7th, 5th, 6th. Like, I think that's why like leaving him off the list sounds weird, but we didn't do it on purpose. But I agree with you, Jeremy, that there were moments and stretches of the season where you're like, oh, man, he's passing some cars. He's moving forward. He's hanging out there in the crowd that we want and all hope for him. I just don't think there was enough of it. There's a 20th, a 21st. Listen, I said that stretch, but here, 30th, 21st, 20th, 18th, 23rd, 11th, 28th, 12th, 14th, 17th. It was a tale of like, hey, we had some good runs and we're showing up, and then it was like, where'd we go? So I think overall, though, improvement. Hopefully that transcends carries into next year and we'll get some more wins. We're better when Lucas Wolf wins races, for sure.
Absolutely. Let's get to just a couple this is another very popular one that was written in quite a few times. Cam Smith. He got his first 2 career wins at Lincoln and Williams Grove in June in like a week's time span. 47 races to 2 wins, 6 top 5s, 20 top 10s. Kevin Marston gave him a B. Mike Botterbash, C.A. Ruth, and Don Burrs gave him an A. Paulette Bornman gave him an A+. And Cody F. and Daniel So both gave him a B+. I would probably put him in a B range, B+ range. I think he was pretty fast at times, but then there was times where he just kind of wasn't a factor.
Yeah, I'm kind of a B- range, just off the top of my head because of those streakiness that the wins, and we're like, oh shit, he just broke loose. Williams Grove, Lincoln, back to back, like, holy crap, we're about to see it go. Like we all want. Like I think he will. I think he's going to get there someday. And then
he's young.
It was like, well, and then they missed a few races, and it sounds like they're coming back next year. Consistency, I think. Cam maturing. He's a young guy. I think we forget, how old is he? Is he 20?
Yeah, he's young.
He's 20, right? Got into the seat with 2 years of 358 experience. So there's that maturity time there for sure. He's a smart kid. He's very talented. Raw talents there. I think the future is the story's yet to be told, right? So, Jeremy, what do you think about Cam?
I like Cam. I need him to finish races more. That was a problem when he was with Trone. He just seemed to fall out of the seat a little bit when he was running up front. It seems like they kind of rectified that. He got 2 wins this year. Look, it's building. He still doesn't have a ton of starts under his belt. Right. So we'll see how this team progresses. I think they're going to get out and travel in central Pennsylvania a little more next year. I don't think they'll be pigeonholed to Lincoln. Pardon the pun.
Cool.
And I think they'll be moved. You'll see him at Port Royal a little more, and that's the progression. You want to see progress for a young guy like that. He's in this car now. Okay, this year he got his wins. Next year we need to see more consistency. He needs to get out and see, more tracks, get more laps, get more experience, and just be in that situation more. And then we'll see what he can do.
Yeah. And a couple more from the fans. Michael Copen wrote Dason Bursley B+. Harley gave Dason Bursley a B. I was gonna put Dason Bursley possibly on the list, but I didn't see enough from him. He's definitely the guy that I'm watching for next year. I think he could be very impressive. I thought he was very impressive this year. I'm definitely keeping an eye on him for next year. Nate wrote in Tyler Ross B+. He had a pretty good season. Ryan Smith wrote in Landon Crawley a B+. I don't know about that. I guess because of his equipment and everything.
Age.
Yeah, and age too.
The
Sure.
fact that he ran his first 410 race at Volusia.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair. Trevor Royer wrote in Trey Starks B+. He did have those high limit wins. I don't know too much else about his stats out there other than but when the national tours came in, he looked really good. Matt Adams wrote JJ Loss a C. DJ Oliver wanted to give Cap Henry a shout out with an A. Donna Gossett wrote B. Lucas Wolf a B+. And Isaac Schopp wrote Ryan Timms B+. Aaron A wrote Cody Lemon A-. David Scott Smeltzer wrote Brandon Rahmer a B+. Cody Enders gave Justin Sanders an A+. Tristan wrote Kyle Larson an A+.
No shit.
Dalton wrote Landon Crawley A-. Brandon Gibby wrote Kyle Reinhardt a B, and Corey gave Darren Pittman an A, which I thought that was interesting, just because he only wrote about. I mean, Darren Pittman has looked great in that 69K whenever he does jump in it. Any of these stand out to you guys?
I mean, I wish people were my teachers in school. I mean, not that they're way off. It's just, I think sometimes, look, and it's tough grading in this sport because, you have situations, you have expectations, it's harder. You're going to grade some guys harder than others, and that's just the way it is. But, Darren Pittman, he fits that 69K perfect. He drives like Lance does. They're similar driving styles. They just suit that car. We saw how well they did at Texas. And, obviously didn't work out at the Grove because of the heat race incident, but he would have been in the mix.
For sure.
And I think anytime Darren Pittman gets in that car, he's going to have a chance to win. And obviously it doesn't matter where he's at. So even at Knoxville, a place that he really does not do well at, it's not been his favorite track.
Him and the team, for that matter. Like, 16K hasn't been historically great there.
Yeah, but I mean, it's. I think Ryan Timms is an interesting one. I think the end of the year, looked really good. I think Ryan Timms. I was not high on Ryan Timms when he started. He had a good weekend with the World of Outlaws, where I think he went like 7th and 2nd or 9th and 2nd. And everybody, again, took these expectations, got prisoner of the moment, and said he's the next big thing. And then he struggled for the next year and a half.
Yeah, almost. Yeah.
Yeah, then he comes out and he runs second doing a prelim. Or no, he won, I think, a prelim at the Houston's this year and had some flashes in the Midwest. That Liebig Motorsports car he jumped in, for whatever reason, the chemistry's there. I like that he's going to run 50 races with them next year. I think Ryan Timms in the last year has taken a lot of steps. I like the B+ with him. I think that's a fair for Ryan Timms. I'm now intrigued by Ryan Timms.
Yeah, I agree. I was like in a little bit, like, okay, let's see how it goes. And in that year and a half, I'm like, what happened? Like, where'd that go? And, that family car, I think it's okay. I just think they were missing something. He jumps in that 10, like you said, and it was like Boom, there's Ryan Timms. Like, holy shit. The other one I was curious about from you is Justin Sanders, because I'm a believer in this kid, this guy. I don't even know how old he is at this point. He showed really good flashes when he was in that 39, the Swindell car, right? Obviously, Swindell car was was in the garage this year due to some issues with the owners, with Kevin. But
Yep.
is this a guy who, if he got the opportunity, would go and do other things other than California, or is he just seems like that guy, sort of like some of our guys that says, I don't have to do it, I don't want to, I'll just stay and do me and do really good here. Am I reading that wrong?
I think Justin Sanders is over the last 2-3 years has evolved into I thought he was good before. I could see the talent. I took a trip out to California in 2017 to see some of these guys when I first started Sprint Car Unlimited, and Justin can drive. And he comes from what I would say the poor side of the tracks out there. He works on the cars, does everything himself. He drives for Demo Mitri. I think 410 wise, he's taken that next step. I thought he did okay in the Macri car.
He did.
I think people expected him to go out and do what Anthony does. That wasn't going to happen.
No, but he ran really well.
I thought he ran. I think he ran decent, and I think he's put it together. And we saw what that looks like this year. Wins the NARC title over Cole Macedo. Won races. I'm stunned he didn't win a high limit World of Outlaws event. He flirted with it. He was close. Just trying to get over that hump. I think Justin Sanders is a good driver. Whether he would leave California, I know he has a business out there right now. I know he's doing well out there as far as he has a fiance. He's getting married. So I don't think now is that time. Could it happen someday? Maybe. It depends. But it has to be the right situation. It has to make sense. And let's face it, he's got to make money. That's what it comes down to. He has a business at home. He has family, friends at home, and he's making money at home. So it comes down to dollars and cents. If the deal made sense to him, he would do it. But I don't think it's next year or the following year. I think if it does happen, it'll be down the road a little bit.
Yeah, I got that vibe. Like, he's okay. Like, he's content, got a life building, stuff like that. So I had those vibes from that for sure. And not, I mean, selfishly, I'd like to see him get that shot and go do that. And I think could be as good as anybody out there, with time. But
if he drove in Central Pennsylvania, he'd be a star.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
California, the difference of being out there to being here. It's the notoriety, it's the fan base. California doesn't have the fans Central Pennsylvania has. It's just not even close. In fact, there's no area in the country that's as big as Central Pennsylvania. Whether you like the area or you don't, it's a fact.
Yep.
So if he won, I mean, in a 360 out there, that 4SA he runs, lights out. My favorite car in the country.
Noted. I'm gonna have to. I'll pay attention to that one. I like it.
I wasn't really a believer in him until he got into that Macri car last year, and then I was like, oh, okay, like he really does, like he could just jump in and be really good. So
he can.
He's a wheelman. Want to thank everybody for voting.
There's anyone watching, thank you.
Yeah. Everybody for voting. We had over 100 submissions, so thank you guys so much. If we didn't get to your write-ins or whatever, I'm sorry. Try to limit it as much as we can, so it wasn't a 3-hour show, but it was a 3-hour show. The one thing I did just want to bring up before we leave, first of all, BAPS, Brock Searfoss got the win. We already talked a little bit about this. Fantastic event. They got more 410 shows, it looks like, a little bit next year. Really excited for them and what they're doing. They had a great turnout, good car count. It was a good night of racing there. But Sealam's Grove, another track that's looking like it's on the comeback, announced a new promotional team. They're looking like they're going to have their opening night on a Friday, April 11th, with 410s and late models. I'm very excited for that. I'm a Sealam's Grove homer. It looks like they're going to try to get about 23 races in or so, and they're bringing back the Raceway Park. They're working with Port Royal and Clinton County, it sounds like, to try to come up with the schedule. So that should be released in December. You could find out more information on that on Sprint Car Unlimited, as Jeremy posted an article earlier this evening. But I'm very excited about it. Of course, obviously I'm a Selinsgrove homer, like I just said, but I'm glad that it's going to be a track again and have races at it, and we'll see how it goes. I'm very hopeful.
What are your Jeremy? What are your thoughts on the Friday, April 11th, as a 410 opener there? What again? We don't know anything. We it's a long way to April, but bold strategy. One-off early season.
I want to know. Well, here's what I want to know, and I'm going to be writing about this in the near future, probably an opinionated column. I want to know why people want to take a bite out of the ass of Williams Grove all of a sudden.
Bold strategy.
Because
I think people have been egged on to do it for years, and someone's finally doing it. But I don't know why. I don't understand.
Port Royal started it with the Weichert deal.
No. It started back in the 80s when Hagerstown tried to do it. And they had Doug Wolfgang, Keith Kaufman, Darren H. when he was good. And guess what? They lost.
Yeah.
You don't look, I talked to in my story, I talked to all three of I talked to Jenna Mowry, Paul Schick, and Colin Rice. And look, they said all the right things. They know they got a uphill battle because you're going to have to build that trust back with fans, drivers, vendors, people who Clay Guy still owed money. I mean, he's not going back there. I mean, so there are a lot of obstacles to overcome. I am not in favor of going against Williams Grove your first year out when you have to do that other stuff.
Yeah.
And and this is going to happen 3 or 4 times. This isn't going to be a one-time thing. So
that's what I have to ask.
And I have some concerns about it. I'm going to talk about it in my 90 at 9 tomorrow. But it's just, to me, not the right tact right now.
Yeah.
And look, drivers say it all the time. They always want options, but that doesn't mean they do those options.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing. I've seen the purse structures on their website. And look, is it great that these drivers are getting paid more money? Absolutely. But here are the finances to it. Your operating cost for a track is now about $12,000 to $15,000. That's your insurance, lights, food, workers, everything. It's about $12,000 to $15,000 in this area.
Per night or?
Per night. That's your water, whatever it is. Your mortgage, everything's factored into it if you have a mortgage. The problem is when you start their first week, their purse is going to be $50,000. You're looking at a $65,000 nut against Williams Grove.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
Okay.
I only saw that first one. I'm like, as a statement to say that we're back, I don't hate it. I think they could make Friday nights work if it was late models, because then you could do a thing with, Friday night and Saturday night between them and Port Royal with the late models. I don't think that's a bad move. And with them being a late model family, that are taking this over, it makes a lot of sense. And it could give them some stability, give them some races and everything. 410s, yeah, we know it brings the people out, but to go up against Williams Grove more than once is going to be an obstacle. I agree with you. It's going to be tough.
Here's a problem. Your limited late model purse is $11,000. That's double what it is at BAPS. It's a recipe for disaster. Okay.
So you're pissing somebody off regardless, right?
Eventually
the money's going to catch up.
Eventually, the bubble. This is a bubble. You guys ever watch Wall Street?
Mm-hmm.
Money never sleeps. It's a bubble. And where's that lie between admission price, that sweet spot between admission price, what people are charging to get in versus raising the purses, your expenses, so on and so forth? It's got to make sense. Weekly shows are dying.
Yeah.
That's a fact. I mean, big shows do great. We're now tennis and golf, built around the majors, and that's fine. but I see the purses keep going like this. And again, even a late model purse. Their late model purse is $26,000 with $200 tow money.
Phew.
That you better put 1,200 people in, depending on what they
Yeah.
purse to get in. Now, look, I know what they're trying to do, and that's very noble. And it's very noble that the purses are going up. However, there's a breaking point. And remember, Steph tried to do the same thing.
Yep.
How'd that work out?
Did not work out very
Well,
well.
it depends
But
how much of a nest egg you're starting with, right? How much of a pot are you starting with to make this investment and know you're going to lose for X amount of time? And the plan is by year X, right? The business plan has to be, we got to get market share. We have to get it. You're going to have to spend some money to get the market share, that which is fans and cars. Trust, cars, fans. How long can you sustain that till it starts making a profit and you make that back, fill that nest egg back up? It just depends on how big this pot is to start with. We don't know.
Care. Rich people, let's say let's say they're rich. Okay, I don't know either way. Rich people don't stay rich by losing money.
Facts.
right.
And furthermore, let's say, okay, let's look at it from an economic standpoint. Let's say you get 24 cars, okay? And in 2 years, you get 29 cars. The average is 5 guys per car. Let's say it's 6. Let's get wild. That's 30. That's 30 extra people in the pit area at $40 a pop, and you're looking at $1,200. So you're going to raise your purse for $1,200. The economics work out. That's the problem.
Isn't one of the other things that we might be missing would be truck sponsorships? Might collect paving, right? Big at Port Royal. There's a lot of money toward some of those expenses, that daily operating cost. Maybe there's things we don't even know. Well, we hope. I hope for their sake that there's something in the works there, because you're right. Your math doesn't math from day one. On top of what they're owed to even get into the place to make the lights turn back on. And
That's where I'm like, how are they doing this?
You're basically playing Tom Brady 28-3 here.
Yeah.
Well, let me say, from what I gather, the bills from the past regime are not carrying over.
Okay.
So that's great. That's a plus.
Yeah.
Look, and there's good things with this group. Okay, number one, I would say more grounded.
Yeah.
I would say
they've been involved with the Speedway for a long time.
Yeah.
More organized, I would say, outside looking in.
Look, I talked to them, nice people. I can't say anything bad, and I won't say anything bad. My questions come with the economics.
Yeah.
My question comes with going against the Grove. And it's not just Selinsgrove. Port Royal doing that with the Weicker. Look, and I get it. Williams Grove, it has a stigma. People, still Williams Grove. And you know what? When all the series leave and everybody, and we're just here, they all got to work together. And let me tell you, Williams Grove's not happy. So, and what if they get kind of in a consortium or coalition with these other tracks that also are being treated that way? Now you got to split.
Yeah.
There's just
like you do with the series.
There's big picture stuff. I told somebody the other day, I won't be writing a ton about silly season news, drivers swapping over the next 3 years. It's going to be about economics. And, I hope Selinsgrove does well. I wish them nothing but the best. I hope they can turn it around. I like it up there, but I just have some concerns with the purse, and I have some concerns with running against Williams Grove the first year.
Yeah.
And no calls were made.
Yeah, I did not know that part. I saw that first one on a Friday night. I'm like, all right, this is a way to make a statement. I didn't know if they had anything worked out with Williams Grove. I doubted it, but I didn't know that there was going to be more than one Friday, because I know Friday nights, they used to do Friday nights at the Raceway Park at the small micro track or the kart track, but that's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see when the schedule comes out.
What you just said about a split like division, it almost looks like maybe more lines are being drawn, like the High Limit World Racing Group deal, because now you have Lincoln, BAPS, Williams Grove on one side, and Port recruiting Sons Grove to their side with the high limit deal.
You-
It almost feels like that.
Oh, I mean, I don't know if it ends up that way, but look, you can only have somebody pissing your Cheerios so many times.
Yeah.
Before they get mad.
I think we all agree Williams Grove, take it or leave it, is the granddaddy of the area. They run the shit.
Still Williams Grove.
Yeah. They still run the shit.
Playing from ahead, right? They obviously I don't know their financials either, but they can afford to have 8 World of Outlaw shows this season, right? They can afford to do that and pay up. So if they really wanted to play Big Bully Brother, they probably could and play probably pretty dirty. Maybe they're going to be there soon. I don't know how they would do it, but they have the resources to potentially do that.
Here's the other thing, and people forget this. Williams Grove allowed other tracks to have outlaw shows.
Right.
They allowed it.
They were the genesis of it, I would assume, right?
Well, I think it's an agreement, right?
In 2006, when the NST split, they sided with the Outlaws. It was huge. It was huge at the time that they did that. And then at that point, you get a relationship with the Outlaws. The Outlaws, for all the things that are said about them, they're not the evil empire like people think. They're not.
They're not.
They're very loyal. If you're loyal to them, they will be loyal to you. And they're very loyal to the Grove. And yes, when Port Royal asked for an Outlaws show the first time, the Grove gets a say. It's, and now I think they feel a little slighted, and they probably should. So there's a lot of politics involved. There's a lot of things that go into it. Like I said, I hope Sealands Grove does well. We'll see what happens with it. But I just wouldn't go against the Grove.
No, I agree.
But
has Williams Grove announced their schedule yet?
Who, Sealands Grove?
No, Williams Grove.
No.
Even bolder.
No, they don't go off the map too much with what they normally do.
Yeah, I was going
to
say.
I was just wondering if there was a random reason why they were off the 11th and Sealands Grove capitalized. But you said they're going to do it 4 times?
Yeah, but everybody and their grandmother knows that Williams Grove runs Friday nights.
Yeah.
Correct. It's almost even wilder. Sealands Grove's like, hey, we're going to do these on a Friday night. Before the Grove announces their schedule, the Grove could just drop big races there and really.
Well, that's usually that April 11th is pretty close to when the Tommy Classic happens.
Used to be, yeah.
It's either that weekend or the weekend after
there.
Well, here's the other thing. Is this BAPS dropping their 410 race calendar already for next year?
Do you think that was by design?
A little bit of reading the tea leaves about what was about to happen the next week with an announcement on Sunday. So, listen, they're not dumb either, right? They're all without Colton and knowing.
Colton Gauss is one of the sharpest guys in the area.
I like Colton. Every interaction I've had, I like talking to him. I'm thrilled that BAPS is picking those shows up. I love going there. It's my favorite 410 track for 410 racing. I'm a BAPS homer where Jimmy's the Sealands Grove homer. I'm the BAPS homer for that. For 410 racing. And I'm glad they're picking up more shows. I hope there's not competition because I don't know if that does well if Sealands Grove and BAPS are running at the same time.
Here's what I do know. I know BAPS I know BAPS averaged more cars than anybody in the area this year. Yep. It was around that 38 number. And their point fund guys coming back, and they're going to possibly have more into it. I don't know why you go against them.
Yeah. I'm fine with BAPS picking up those Sunday shows, to be honest. I'm personally thinking, I think Sealands Grove needs to have their couple 410 shows, like the Speed Week show and whatever, if they're going to bring this back. But I think, and just because I'm just kind of reading into them being a late model family, I think they could make it like they used to have the Route 35 series between them and Port Royal. You know what I mean? Like they could bring that back and really help bring that track back, bring some stability back, bring some fans back and stuff like that. Sprinkle a couple 410, 305 races in there, here and there. But it's gonna be interesting when the schedule comes out. Obviously, you know more than we do, but that's it's gonna be interesting. It's I think, but I think if they go mostly late models, which I think is probably going to be more of the direction that they go, they can make it work.
I talked about them like the home of the 305s, right? Between Port Royal Saturday nights, Selinsgrove Friday nights, that there could be without having
Well,
to try to get into the 410 world.
Clinton
and
County runs 305s a lot on Friday nights too. So,
Clinton
which is
County's-
what they're also working with schedule wise, is what they said. So,
Look, guys, I think there's too much racing in Central Pennsylvania.
Facts.
I mean, and I'm not. It's just again, it's economics. It's supply and demand.
Mhm.
Now, again, I hope Selinsgrove has success. I wish them the best. I know when I say this stuff, it's just concerns I have because
I
of
agree.
what I've seen in the past and what I saw the past regime do.
Mhm.
And, you know, and also I've been talking about this for a while now about just the purses keep going up and up and up. And then you hear people complain about $40, $50 ticket prices, even though that's cheap in real world sports.
Yeah, it
Racing
is.
people have a problem with it. So I just don't know what the breaking point is. I hope Selinsgrove can pull it off. I like the facility. I like the track. It's just they definitely got an uphill battle, and I wish them all the best.
Yeah, same. I liked what, when Steph and them came in. I thought they had a good vision. They just didn't execute. And I thought more. Yeah, and I thought they would probably be better off. And kind of what they were doing was going as more of a bigger event, like just not a weekly schedule, couple of bigger events throughout the year to try to keep that place going. But we'll see how it goes. It'll be interesting.
I'm in favor of an 80 race schedule in this area for 410.
Total.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And look, you get the Grove 20, you get Port 20, Lincoln 20, and you have 20 races to spread around.
Yeah.
And that includes Speed Week and so on. I like it that way. If you want to fill in with rain dates, fine. So everybody gets their nut. But it would be less races where you're on top of each other. There's other factors involved, economics, fill in with like lantern fests, circuses, rodeos, monster truck events, whatever. I do think these facilities need to be multi-purpose entertainment. The world's changing. And unfortunately, and I hate to say it, dirt track racing is about 15 years behind real world stuff.
Yeah, you're right.
It just is.
I mean, like BAPS is the closest to catching up.
Well, let me ask you this. How many tracks in this area, which we agree, the biggest sprint car area in the country, how many of them do pre-sales for every event?
One.
BAPS.
None.
Well,
None.
BAPS will sometimes.
They do sometimes, but not all.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's a big
Because we bitch about that Port Royal. Jimmy and I are sitting there camping, and we can't go by.
Leave it up to hope the weather's good and people show up that day.
How many of them use credit cards at the refreshment stand?
2.
BAPS
and Port Royal on the outside, I think.
Look, what I'm getting at is
no, you're right.
Right, they're not there. They don't
I
have
have
it.
season tickets to the Hershey Bears. I can't spend cash there.
Yeah, no, I go to an Eagles game. I can't spend. I have cash in my pocket. I can't spend it. I got to do you got to do everything with a card.
Everything
with your phone, even your tickets.
Yeah, your tickets. Hell, I flew to Charlotte and everything was on my phone. So it's just behind.
Mm-hmm.
It's an unfortunate fact with racing, and they need to pick it up. It needs to pick up.
But do you think that model won't work because the fresh injection of capital only happens when ownership changes? So maybe those things start to happen if someone now, let's say in 2026, one of the 3 big has new owner, fresh injection of capital, and can upgrade those things. Do tracks have the resources financially to just put that injection of it into a track right now in their current state?
Jay-Z, if the damn merch haulers can have a square thing to sell merch with a credit card,
it's not
fucking
much.
cheeseburger stand can.
Yeah.
Here's the easy thing. Just go to my race pass.
Yeah.
Right. They weren't talking that.
Everything.
They were talking even if you're doing concession stuff. If the damn merch
The
trailers can do it.
concessions are vendors. They're not just not all of those vendors are track vendors that they can require and say, you need to bring this to the next time you show
and
up.
that's fine.
And hold
But
your
they
trailer.
make the rules. They own the track.
I understand, but
I would argue some of those vendors already are there. They're there.
In fact, those vendors actually might be the ones that accept the credit cards while the track is sitting over there. Give me your cash.
So there's a lot to it, but I'm just, infrastructure wise, costs of
I
taking
don't know
it
how
to
much
that
a
next
square or
level.
whatever that thing is called.
It's really
costs, but
not
it's
that
probably
high.
cheap.
Because
Yeah.
BAPS does it. I know I talked to Steve O'Neill. Steve O'Neill wants to do it more, but it's again slow process. This
Yeah.
has been going on in other sports for years, and it's just got to get better.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes some things are lost or opportunities are lost because we're so far behind the times. And I mean, look, it's I wish it was different, but maybe Sealands Grove can turn that around and they can start with that stuff and maybe they're listening and I don't know, but it's going to be a tough road to hoe. I mean, the last 2 years have been devastating in that speedway.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Let's get him out of here, man. This
Yeah.
has been
Well.
crazy
Yeah.
long.
Yeah, I think we're all gonna go. Jeremy, thank you so much for doing
No
this with
problem.
us. This is a lot of fun and a lot of great insight from you. I'm really glad that we were able to have you on for this. And
And everybody should know this already. SprintCarUnlimited.com.
Yes.
Best value for your dollar. Go sign up. Get the newsletter.
It's a no-brainer.
Thank
Just go
you.
do it.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much, guys.
I've done it. Whether Jeremy's helped me out a lot the last couple of years in my photo journey, but I subscribed from basically that day to support what he does. This is what he does for a career. He's the pro. We are amateur fans. Go support what he does at these tracks. And
Yes.
for all the shit you get on social media for what you're doing is so stupid because you can either offer it or you can have no chance to offer it. You
Yeah.
can just be gone and not do it at all. So thank you for what you do. I appreciate you and your contributions to the sport, both out of your pocket and the stuff that you give us the choice to go pay for to be a part and watch it, whether it's on SprintCarUnlimited.tv or go read the articles that you put up that's not out there otherwise. So
The
thank you.
craziest part is go to YouTube and watch 90 at 9. Which is
Yeah,
that's actually what I'm going to do
in the
next.
deep dives and all that stuff. Like, I love that stuff.
99,
Like,
yeah.
you have to pay for that.
Like I love that stuff. The 99, the deep dives, the last
You
one.
guys love them.
Kevin, Kevin
Scott Cobra.
Awesome. Great interview. Love Scott. Love what they're doing at BAPS. And again, I could listen to that shit all the time. And I probably listen to more deep dives than I've listened to a lot of my regular podcasts lately because there's just so much stuff there in those deep dives. So great job, man. YouTube channel hopefully is
I
blowing up.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you for having me on.
Yep.
I always like coming on to do this stuff. I learned some stuff and see what you guys are doing and you guys are doing a good job. And I appreciate all the shout outs and everything. And again, keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks, man. Have a great
Thanks,
off
Jeremy.
season.
Have a
See you
great
in
one.
spring.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
And again, all of you guys, thank you guys so much for a great 2024 season, for tuning in every week, listening in. This was a long one. Hopefully, if you're listening the day after, if you're still here, there's a lot of people still here chatting and everything. It's pretty cool.
Day after you keep yapping, we'll still be here.
Yeah, really. But this was our last show for the 2024 season. That doesn't mean content's going to go away. We're going to try to do some different things throughout. Some best of videos. If we get any breaking news or anything, we'll probably be bringing out, some videos like that and maybe some interviews here and there. But in terms of live shows, this will be it for the rest of the year. And then we'll be back sometime in January, and we'll get fire back up for the 2025 season, hopefully bigger and better than ever.
By the way, Mandy is in chat still. She thinks she's still awake, but we didn't even get to bring this up. Mandy was at the chili cook-off, standing right in front of us, and I don't think she came up and said hi to any of us.
No,
she did not.
And I think she was right in front of us. Mandy, why did you not come up and say hi?
Yeah, meanwhile, Steph, I'm walking to go. I left Jimmy in the infield at BAPS. I'm about to go to the bathroom, and Steph, she let my name out.
And
then tried to punch me.
If you see us, come say hi. I'm pretty sure you were standing there. I'm 99.99% sure that was you. Please come up and say hi if you see us.
Ryan Jacob, real quick, he said Zemco car, any hints?
The hint I have is that,
I think it's done.
Dunzo from what we hear.
Is what we're hearing. That's not official or anything, but that's what we're hearing. So unfortunately. So again, if any of this kind of news comes out, we'll try to do some quick little videos for you guys and still keep in contact with everybody throughout, the rest of the year. But if not, if this is your last episode or your last interaction with us for the year, have a great holiday season.